New Jersey is known for its diners, pizzerias, and roadside eateries, each with the aroma of home-cooked meals. But among the bustling streets and quiet suburbs lie abandoned restaurants left in a rush, where the kitchen fires were never fully extinguished. Chairs remain tipped over, and the smell of food seems to linger from another time. These restaurants are not just empty buildings. They are haunted. Patrons who return often report shadowy figures sitting at tables, footsteps echoing in the dining areas, and whispers that seem to come from the kitchens. Some have even seen phantom waiters serving meals long forgotten, or the sudden flicker of lights where there is no power. Tonight, we will explore 25 of New Jersey's most haunted abandoned restaurants, where the past lingers and the spirits of those who once dined or worked refuse to leave. Enter if you dare, and listen carefully. The clatter of unseen utensils, the laughter of unseen patrons, and the faint smell of burnt coffee may be closer than you think. The Midnight Diner, tucked away in a quiet corner of Newark, is a place that has long been a subject of whispered stories among locals. By day, the building is unassuming, its faded neon sign flickering intermittently, the chrome trim dulled by years of weather and neglect. The dinner's interior, with its vinyl booths and Formica countertops, seems frozen in time, a snapshot of mid-20th century America. Though closed for decades, there is an aura that suggests the building is still alive, waiting for someone to step inside and witness what remains unseen. Those who pass by at night report an uncanny feeling, as though the diner is watching, aware of each movement outside its windows, its emptiness belying a deeper presence within. Visitors who dare to enter after dark speak of strange sounds that immediately set the scene apart from ordinary abandonment. The faint clatter of dishes echoes from the kitchen, though no lights are on and no staff remain. Footsteps click softly along the tiled floor, pacing the aisles and approaching booths. Yet when the visitor looks around, the diner is entirely empty. Some have claimed to hear the low murmur of conversation, words almost indistinguishable but filled with the cadence of normal dining chatter. Occasionally, the scraping of a chair or the jangle of cutlery punctuates the silence, creating an atmosphere that is both nostalgic and deeply unsettling. The dinner's booths are the stage for perhaps its most disquieting phenomena. Shadowy figures are said to occupy them, sitting silently with posture and gestures unnervingly human. They appear as fleeting glimpses in the corner of the eye, vanishing the moment attention is focused directly on them. Witnesses describe them as blurry, almost translucent, but with enough detail to suggest they are reliving some fragment of their former lives. A dinner's reflection in the chrome surfaces may reveal a figure seated across from you, yet when you turn, there is nothing. Patrons have recounted instances of feeling a cold presence beside them or across the table, the air around these spectral visitors heavy and chill-laden. The kitchen, too, seems to harbor a presence. Visitors report hearing the hiss of the grill turning on, the popping of grease in a frying pan, and the soft splash of coffee being poured. Cabinets and drawers seem to open and close of their own accord. Some have claimed to see the silhouette of a cook moving behind the counter, stirring pots or placing plates on the pass-through window. The smell of coffee, eggs, and fried food sometimes accompanies these manifestations, a scent that lingers briefly before vanishing into the cold stillness. Those with the courage to approach often find nothing but empty countertops and dusty plates, leaving them with the unsettling impression that the diner operates according to its own schedule, independent of time or human presence. At times, the diner seems to replay scenes of the past. Phantom patrons move as though following routines, sipping coffee, reading newspapers, or chatting quietly. The low hum of conversation may form into discernible words or phrases, fragments of arguments, laughter, or casual talk. Chairs scrape back as if people are leaving, yet the visitor sees no one departing. Some guests have described moments when the diner feels as though it is frozen, a tableau in which the spectral customers are aware of the living observer yet continue their routines undisturbed. Approaching the figures often causes them to dissolve into nothingness, leaving only a faint chill and the faint echo of a departing sigh. The sense of being watched is a consistent feature of experiences at the Midnight Diner. Visitors often describe the sensation of eyes on them, coming from booths or shadowed corners where no one can physically be. Cold drafts sweep across the floor, sometimes brushing against a shoulder or trailing along the back of the neck. The air feels heavier in these moments, thick with the memory of conversations, meals, and mundane interactions that now exist only as echoes. Even long after leaving, people report a lingering unease, as if some unseen patron continues to follow them, observing their movements, long after they have departed. One night, a group of local teenagers decided to explore the diner. As they stepped inside, the old neon sign flickered weakly, casting a faint, pulsing glow across the dusty interior. Immediately, the sounds began: soft footsteps on the tiles, the clatter of a plate in the back, a low murmur that seemed to shift from one booth to another. They saw fleeting shapes moving among the tables, the vague outline of people sitting silently and staring in their direction. The teenagers tried to call out, but their voices seemed swallowed by the ambient echoes of past conversations. Chairs scraped across the floor as if the diners were leaving, yet no one emerged from the shadows. Cold air swept through the room, causing goosebumps and a chill that seemed to emanate from nowhere. Each time they approached a booth, the figures vanished, only to reappear a moment later across the room, as though the diner itself was replaying the routines of a forgotten day. Locals warn that lingering too long within the diner can be disorienting. Time feels suspended. Minutes stretch into hours as if the building itself controls perception. The repetition of shadowy patrons, the clattering dishes, and phantom footsteps combine to create an immersive experience, where the living observer becomes part of the dinner's endless echo. Some claim that those who stay too late may feel compelled to sit at a booth, to be watched silently by invisible patrons, caught in a loop of observation and echoing presence that mirrors the routines of the past. Even after leaving, visitors carry the impression of the midnight diner with them. The sound of footsteps behind them in quiet streets, the faint scent of coffee and fried food, or the lingering feeling of being watched in ordinary places, serve as reminders of the encounter. The diner is more than a building. It is a repository of memory, presence, and unresolved echoes of human life. For those who dare to step inside after dark, it offers a glimpse into a world where the past never fully departs, where phantom patrons sit silently, dishes clatter without reason, and the living become witnesses to the endless replay of forgotten moments. The Midnight Diner is a place where history and haunt intersect. It is a space that preserves the rhythms and routines of life long after human activity has ceased. For anyone venturing into its shadowed interior at night, it promises a haunting encounter with the unseen. Phantom figures pacing the floors, whispers carried on the wind, and the persistent, undeniable presence of patrons who never truly left, their existence suspended between memory and mist, waiting silently for the next visitor to enter their eternal dining room. Bayshore Grill in Jersey City is a place that carries a quiet, unsettling reputation. By day, it appears as any other neighborhood restaurant, its large windows reflecting the city skyline, and its warm, inviting interior welcoming customers for casual dining. Locals often speak fondly of the place, recalling laughter over meals, clinking glasses, and the simple comfort of a familiar menu. Yet as night falls, when the last patrons leave and the staff locks the doors, the restaurant takes on an entirely different character, one that is whispered about but seldom openly discussed. Visitors who come after hours, whether out of curiosity or for urban exploration, report strange experiences that defy explanation. Shadowy figures are frequently seen near the bar area, moving just at the edge of vision. Sometimes these figures seem to lean against the counter, watching, while other times they appear to pace slowly behind the bar or along the aisles between tables. When approached, they vanish almost instantly, leaving only an eerie stillness in their place. Witnesses describe them as human in shape, but indistinct in detail, lacking facial features or clear clothing, as though they are impressions of people who once occupied the space. Whispers and laughter often accompany these spectral appearances. The sounds are subtle at first, like fragments of conversations or quiet chuckles carried from a distant room. Visitors report hearing words spoken in hushed tones, sometimes calling names, other times repeating phrases that are incomplete or nonsensical. The laughter is light and fleeting, almost musical, but it carries a hollow, unsettling edge, as though mocking or observing the living. These sounds seem to drift through the empty dining room, bouncing off walls and ceiling, blending with the faint echo of footsteps that appear along the hardwood floor. The bar itself is a focal point of the hauntings. Glasses sometimes rattle on shelves, and chairs are found slightly shifted, as if someone had just moved them. Occasionally, the clink of a bottle being placed on the counter resonates through the empty space. Though careful investigation reveals no human presence, some witnesses report seeing figures reach for bottles or pour drinks. The motions fluid but eerily silent. The ambient sounds of the creaking of floorboards, faint whispers, and the shifting of invisible weight combine to create a sense that the restaurant is alive with unseen activity, replaying the routines of another time. The dining room is not exempt from these disturbances. Patrons long gone seem to linger in the corners of booths, their presence indicated by fleeting shadows or the sudden impression of a gaze from across a table. Some visitors have felt cold drafts sweep past them, brushing against shoulders or trailing along the neck, as though someone invisible has just passed by. The temperature within the restaurant can drop suddenly in certain areas, particularly near the bar or in isolated booths, reinforcing the sense that unseen entities are moving among the furniture. Lights sometimes flicker, the dim glow from overhead fixtures pulsing as if in response to movement or presence, creating an otherworldly ambience that makes the familiar surroundings feel unfamiliar and strange. One group of urban explorers entered Bayshore Grill late one evening, drawn by stories of the hauntings. They stepped cautiously inside, the air cool and heavy with the lingering scent of fried food and stale beer. Immediately, the soft echoes of footsteps reached their ears, pacing along the floorboards though no one was present. A shadowy figure appeared briefly at the end of the bar, motionless, watching them. Whispers seemed to weave around the room, calling indistinct names and echoing faint laughter. As they approached, the figure dissipated, leaving only the impression that it had been observing the intruders. The entire time, the explorers reported a tangible sense of being monitored, a weight in the air that pressed down lightly on their shoulders, and made movement feel measured and deliberate. Objects appear to move without explanation. Glasses and silverware shift slightly when no one is near, as though guided by invisible hands. Some have reported the faint smell of liquor or food rising unexpectedly, even after the restaurant has been closed for weeks. Occasionally, the clatter of dishes can be heard from the kitchen, mingling with ghostly footsteps along the hallway leading to the bar. The combination of auditory, visual, and tactile phenomena leaves a lingering impression that the restaurant is not abandoned, but inhabited by those who once lived and worked there, replaying fragments of their daily routines in an endless loop. Locals warn that lingering too long in Bayshore Grill can be disorienting. The presence of shadowy figures, the echoing laughter, and the whispers seem to distort perception, making time feel slower, longer, or even suspended. Some visitors describe the sensation that they are being gently guided through the space, drawn toward certain booths or areas near the bar, as though the spirits want to replay moments from the past in the presence of the living. Those who leave carry a vivid memory of the experience, the sound of footsteps following them as they move through the darkened dining room, the faint laughter lingering in their ears, and the impression of shadowy patrons who are never fully gone. Bayshore Grill is more than just an abandoned restaurant. It is a repository of memory, echoing the lives, routines, and interactions of those who once occupied its space. Whispers rise in the empty dining room, and laughter drifts through the air, as though time itself refuses to move past the dinner's threshold. For anyone brave enough to enter after dark, it offers an encounter with the unseen, a place where echoes of the past replay endlessly, observing the living, moving among the tables and bar, and reminding all who enter that some presences never truly leave. Riverside Cafe in Hoboken is a small, unassuming restaurant that seems ordinary by daylight, its windows reflecting the calm flow of the Hudson River and the bustling streets nearby. Inside, the decor is quaint and familiar, checkered floors, wooden counters, and vintage photos lining the walls, offering a glimpse into the cafe's long history. Though the cafe has been closed for many years, locals still speak of its presence with a mix of nostalgia and unease. There is an energy that seems to linger, a faint hum of life that continues after the last customer departed decades ago. Those who dare to explore the Riverside Cafe after hours describe a series of experiences that defy ordinary explanation. The most frequently reported phenomenon occurs in the kitchen area. Visitors have felt cold hands brush past them as they move between counters and ovens, a chilling touch that seems to come from nowhere. The sensation is brief but unmistakable, leaving goosebumps along the spine and a persistent feeling of being watched. Some have even recoiled at the faint impression of fingers grazing their arms, as though someone unseen is walking alongside them, silently observing every movement. The ovens in the kitchen seem to hold their own spectral activity. Many witnesses report phantom smoke rising from the burners, curling through the air in thin, wispy trails. The smoke appears and disappears without heat or fire, carrying the faint scent of burnt bread or roasting meat. It moves in ways that defy the natural draft of the room, sometimes drifting toward the back door or across countertops, as if guided by an invisible hand. Visitors often remark that the smoke seems purposeful, filling the space and drawing attention to the old appliances where countless meals were prepared, as though the past is replaying a fragment of its daily rhythm. Footsteps are a constant companion for those who explore the Riverside Cafe after dark. The soft thud of shoes across the tile floor echoes through the empty rooms, following visitors as they navigate between tables, the bar, and the kitchen. When the source is sought, no one is there. Yet the steps continue, sometimes approaching and then retreating, as if a spectral cook or server is moving around them, going about their duties long after the cafe has closed for good. Some witnesses have reported the scraping of chairs or the shift of a table, subtle movements that seem insignificant at first, but contribute to the feeling that the cafe is still inhabited by unseen patrons and workers. The dining area is not immune to paranormal activity. Shadowy figures are often glimpsed near tables or along the far wall, visible only for a second in the corner of the eye. These figures are indistinct, blurry, sometimes appearing as silhouettes of men and women who once filled the cafe with conversation, laughter, and the clatter of cutlery. When visitors turn to look directly at them, they vanish, leaving only a faint chill behind. The effect is disorienting, blending the warmth of memory with the cold, alien sensation of the present, making it feel as though the living are intruding upon a space still partially occupied by those long gone. Sounds are a frequent part of the haunting. Some visitors hear the distant clatter of dishes or the soft clang of pots and pans, as if a meal is being prepared unseen. The faint hum of conversation or laughter may echo through the air, indistinct but recognizable as the murmur of human activity. Even the opening and closing of cupboard doors and drawers has been reported, with the noise coming from sections of the kitchen that have long been abandoned. These sounds seem to respond to the presence of the living, sometimes growing louder when visitors linger and fading when they attempt to investigate. One night, a group of curious explorers entered Riverside Cafe. As they stepped inside, the familiar scent of old wood and faint spices filled the air. Immediately, the cold sensation in the kitchen began. A chill brushed past one of them near the ovens, and the faint rise of smoke appeared over the burners, twisting and curling in a way that seemed unnatural. Footsteps echoed along the tile floor, approaching the group from behind and then retreating. In the dining area, shadowy figures moved between tables, their movements fluid yet intangible. Faint laughter echoed from the corners, blending with the distant scraping of chairs. Each new phenomenon added layers of unease, a growing sense that the building was alive with memories, still performing tasks of long-past days. Visitors often leave with a lingering impression of being observed. The Riverside Cafe is more than an abandoned building. It is a space where memory and presence intertwine. The cold touches, phantom smoke, and faint sounds create an atmosphere that is both eerie and strangely intimate, as though the spirits of past workers are ensuring that the routines of the cafe continue despite the absence of the living. Time feels suspended in these encounters, moments stretching and folding as shadows, and sounds repeat fragments of life that once filled the space. Riverside Cafe serves as a repository for the echoes of the past. Ghostly touches, drifting smoke, and fleeting figures offer a glimpse into the lives of those who worked and dined there long ago. The kitchen, in particular, acts as the heart of the haunt, a place where phantom cooks prepare meals for patrons who are themselves spectral, trapped in a perpetual twilight of their former existence. For anyone entering after dark, the cafe promises an unsettling encounter, an experience where the living become witnesses to the routines, gestures, and presences of those who never truly left, and where the past continues to simmer quietly, unseen yet palpably present. Route 46 Eatery in Clifton has long been a neighborhood staple, known for its hearty meals and late-night service. During the day, it appears like any other bustling diner. The aroma of frying bacon and fresh coffee fills the air, booths line the walls, and the clatter of dishes and chatter of patrons creates a familiar rhythm. However, as night falls and the last customers leave, the diner takes on a far more unsettling character. Those who remain behind, or those daring enough to explore the space after hours, report experiences that cannot be explained by ordinary circumstances. The most common phenomenon occurs along the long hallway that connects the dining area to the kitchen and storage rooms. Visitors often hear the scrape of chairs across the floor, as if someone had just stood to leave or pulled a chair back from a table. At first, the sounds seem distant, almost ambient, but they grow closer, following the observer through the hallway with a deliberate rhythm. Footsteps echo in patterns that are unmistakably human, yet when looked for, no one is there. The echoes are often accompanied by a subtle draft, a shifting of air that suggests movement in empty space, reinforcing the feeling of an unseen presence pacing nearby. Shadowy figures are frequently reported near the windows and in corners of the diner. These figures are most often seen at night, dimly outlined against the faint reflection of streetlights or the occasional car passing outside. Patrons and explorers describe them as vaguely human in shape, often tall and slightly blurred, with no discernible features. They appear for only a moment at a time, disappearing when anyone tries to approach or focus on them directly. Some witnesses claim that the figures seem to watch them, lingering just long enough to give the impression of eyes following their movements, though none are ever clearly visible. Sounds within the diner are also peculiar and unsettling. Apart from the footsteps and chair scrapes, there are occasional bumps and knocks coming from the back rooms or the kitchen. Sometimes it is a single thud, like a dropped utensil. Other times, it is a rhythmic tapping, almost like a pattern being communicated. Many report hearing faint murmurs of conversation or laughter, soft and indistinct, as though the diner is replaying fragments of its past when it was filled with life. Even the hum of overhead lights occasionally flickers in irregular patterns, adding to the sense that the building itself is responding to unseen activity. The dining area seems particularly alive with these strange occurrences. Booths, tables, and counters are often found slightly shifted or moved when inspected, as though someone has recently occupied them. Occasionally, the silverware appears out of place, or condiments are inexplicably rearranged. One visitor reported seeing a shadow glide along a row of booths, pausing briefly at each one as if checking on the empty seats. The sensation of being watched is a recurring theme among those who explore Route 46 Eatery after hours. Some have described a feeling of pressure, like a presence standing close behind them, which vanishes the moment they turn. The windows offer their own form of spectral display. On some nights, passers-by report seeing faint figures moving behind the glass, seemingly peering out at the empty streets or observing the interior of the diner. The figures rarely interact with the environment. Their appearance is enough to unsettle even the most skeptical observer. The combination of reflection and shadow makes it difficult to determine if the figures are inside the diner or merely lingering in the periphery of vision. One night, a small group of urban explorers entered the diner to investigate the legends. They walked cautiously through the dimly lit space, stepping lightly on the polished floor. Almost immediately, the scrape of a chair echoed from the back corner, followed by footsteps pacing along the hallway toward the kitchen. One of the explorers glimpsed a tall, dark silhouette standing near the far window, its shape blurred and shifting with the reflection of passing headlights. When he stepped closer, it vanished, leaving only the faintest chill in the air. As they moved through the diner, whispers seemed to drift across the empty booths, fragments of conversation repeating themselves in loops. Just beyond the edge of comprehension. The atmosphere of Route 46 Eatery is more than just unsettling. Carries a palpable sense of presence. The combination of shadowy figures, unexplained footsteps, and shifting objects gives the impression that the diner is inhabited by echoes of those who once walked its floors. Each sound, each fleeting silhouette, feels intentional, as though the diner itself is alive with the memories of patrons and staff who have long since vanished. Visitors often leave with a lingering sense that the building is watching them. That unseen eyes trace their movements. And that the space continues to replay its past in a loop that never fully ends. Route 46 Eatery stands as a place where the familiar intersects with the uncanny. Chairs scrape across the floor, footsteps echo in empty hallways, and shadowy figures appear in the windows at night. The diner is a space where the past lingers visibly and audibly, offering those who enter after dark a chilling encounter with the unseen. It is a place where ordinary objects and familiar layouts become infused with memory, where the whispers of those long gone continue to haunt the quiet, empty dining room, and where anyone present after hours may feel the presence of invisible patrons and staff, moving silently, watching intently, and replaying the echoes of lives once lived within its walls. Pine Street Pizzeria in Trenton sits quietly on a narrow corner, its faded sign hinting at decades of service to the neighborhood. By day, the building seems abandoned, with boarded windows and a rusting awning. But locals often whisper about strange occurrences after dark. Despite having been closed for decades, the pizzeria refuses to feel truly empty. Those who venture inside after hours report an unsettling presence that seems to cling to the worn tiles, the cracked counters, and the old ovens that have not been lit in years. The most commonly reported phenomena revolve around the kitchen. Visitors frequently claim to see a figure moving among the counters and ovens. A chef in a traditional white coat, tending to preparations that are no longer possible. The figure is often blurry, shifting in and out of view, but its presence is unmistakable. Some describe the smell of fresh dough or the faint aroma of baking cheese. Sensations that linger in the air, as if the pizzeria is still alive with its former activity. Even when no one else is present, the sense of being watched or accompanied in the kitchen is strong. And cold drafts seem to follow the paths of the invisible chef. Phantom pizza boxes are another frequent occurrence. They appear stacked on counters, sometimes neatly arranged as if ready for delivery, only to vanish moments later. Some explorers report opening a box, only to find it empty, or catching a glimpse of a pizza slice within, which disappears when they look again. The boxes sometimes slide across surfaces on their own, as though being carried by unseen hands. Footsteps echo through the tiled floors long after the last customer has left. The sound is precise and measured, moving from the kitchen to the dining area, climbing the stairs to storage rooms, or pacing along the hallway near the restrooms. When visitors investigate, no one is there. Yet the footsteps persist. Some report the feeling of a presence following closely behind, just out of reach, vanishing the instant they turn to confront it. The combination of footsteps, shifting objects, and the faint aroma of cooking creates an immersive experience, one that is both eerie and disturbingly familiar. The dining room is not immune to these strange occurrences. Tables appear to shift slightly between visits, chairs scrape across the floor with no human hand to move them, and condiments sometimes rearrange themselves. Shadowy figures are occasionally glimpsed sitting in booths or leaning against counters, visible for only an instant before fading. Observers describe the figures as human-like, but indistinct. Blurry outlines with no clear facial features. Their presence is passive but undeniable, as though they are replaying the daily rituals of a bustling pizzeria long after the living have moved on. Even the equipment in the kitchen displays unexplained activity. Oven doors open and close slowly. Mixers turn on and off without power, and cutting boards slide across countertops. Some visitors report hearing the faint clatter of knives or the soft chopping of vegetables, sounds that seem impossibly precise yet vanish when they attempt to locate the source. The lingering impression is that the pizzeria itself is alive with memory, replaying tasks it performed hundreds of times when the restaurant was open. One night, a group of local paranormal enthusiasts entered Pine Street Pizzeria, armed with flashlights and recording equipment. As they stepped inside, a cold draft brushed past them, carrying the scent of fresh tomato sauce. Footsteps echoed from the kitchen, moving toward the ovens and then retreating. A shadowy figure was glimpsed in the corner, stirring dough that was long gone. On one counter, a stack of pizza boxes appeared, neatly aligned, and then disappeared as if they had never been there. Laughter and faint murmurs seemed to drift from the dining area, mixing with the sounds of invisible utensils clinking against plates. Each encounter left the group more unsettled, the line between the past and the present blurring in the stale, yet somehow alive, air of the pizzeria. The atmosphere of Pine Street Pizzeria is defined by memory and repetition. The phantom chef moves through his old tasks, the boxes appear and vanish. And the dining area echoes with activity that no longer has a living source. Visitors often describe a sense of being part of a scene frozen in time, where the pizzeria continues to operate in a spectral form. There is a subtle feeling of invitation and warning, as though the spirits of the past welcome witnesses to observe but never interfere, replaying their routines endlessly for anyone who dares to remain until night deepens. Pine Street Pizzeria stands as a place where history lingers tangibly in the air. The phantom chef, the moving pizza boxes, and the shifting sounds of the kitchen create an environment that is both haunting and mesmerizing. Those who visit after dark encounter a building infused with its past, where the echoes of long-past activity continue to manifest in ghostly, tangible ways. The pizzeria is not simply abandoned. It is inhabited by memory itself, replaying the life it once knew, allowing visitors to witness, for a brief time, the spectral remnants of meals, laughter, and work that refused to be forgotten. Ocean View Deli in Asbury Park sits quietly along the boardwalk, its neon sign long faded, the paint peeling from years of exposure to wind and salt. By day, the building seems abandoned, a relic of a time when families gathered for sandwiches, soups, and fresh-baked bread. But at night, the old deli is said to come alive in a way that defies logic. Those who dare to enter after dark report chilling experiences, ghostly laughter, cold drafts that move without source, and the faint, irresistible aroma of bread baking, even though the ovens have been cold for decades. Visitors often first notice the laughter. It starts as a soft, almost playful sound, echoing faintly from the dining area or the counter where customers once ordered their meals. At first, it seems like distant echoes from the boardwalk outside, but as one steps further inside, the sound grows clearer and closer. The laughter has no visible source. It seems to circle the room, coming from different corners and fading just as a visitor turns to look. Many describe it as light and airy, like children playing, yet tinged with an eerie undertone, as though it carries a memory of joy long past, and now impossibly out of reach. The sense of cold is another recurring phenomenon. As guests move through the empty tables, sudden drafts sweep along the floors and aisles, chilling them despite warm air outside or the absence of broken windows. The air sometimes shifts in distinct paths, following patrons as they explore the deli, moving down aisles, around chairs, or past the counter. Some visitors feel a cold brush against their skin, like a hand passing lightly over a shoulder, though no one is there. The temperature seems to fluctuate with the intensity of activity. Areas that were once calm can suddenly feel ice cold, as unseen presences shift through the room. The smell of baking bread is perhaps the most unsettling and inexplicable aspect of Ocean View Delia's haunting. Even when ovens have been cold for decades, patrons describe the smell of warm dough, yeast, and freshly baked loaves lingering in the air. Sometimes the scent is faint, barely perceptible, but strong enough to make mouths water or memories of childhood meals resurface. Others report hearing faint noises from the kitchen clinking utensils, the soft scrape of a rolling pin, or the whisper of dough being kneaded. When approached, the kitchen is always empty, counters covered in dust and cobwebs, ovens long cold, yet the smell and sound persist as though the building is replaying its days of bustling activity. Shadowy movements are often reported along the periphery of vision. Figures appear briefly near tables or behind counters, moving silently as if carrying trays or wiping down surfaces. These figures do not interact aggressively. Instead, they move purposefully through the space, performing routines that feel familiar yet impossibly removed from the present. Some witnesses claim that the figures appear to mimic gestures from the Delia's operational dasa, lifting plates, arranging chairs, or moving from the kitchen to the counter, but vanish when approached, leaving only an impression of presence. The dining area itself seems to retain an echo of life. Chairs sometimes scrape across the floors. Tables are found slightly rearranged, and the faint clatter of plates or cutlery can be heard with no visible cause. Observers often feel that they are being followed or watched. The presence intangible, yet undeniable. The combination of laughter, cold drafts, shadowy figures, and the smell of fresh bread gives the deli a hauntingly alive atmosphere, as though it is trapped between memory and reality, replaying routines from a time when the deli was full of warmth and human activity. One evening, a small group of paranormal investigators entered Ocean View Deli to document the reported phenomena. As they stepped inside, a sudden chill brushed past them, carrying the unmistakable scent of baked bread. Faint laughter echoed from the far end of the dining room, moving from corner to corner, vanishing and returning in irregular intervals. A shadowy figure moved past the counter, vanishing behind the old display case when approached. Footsteps seemed to follow them along the floor, climbing the stairs to storage and back down again. The group felt simultaneously observed and, as if the building itself were alive with memory and intent. The atmosphere of Ocean View Deli is defined by a sense of lingering presence. The laughter, cold drafts, and phantom smells combine to create a vivid connection to the past, where the ghosts of employees and patrons continue their routines in silence. The diner does not feel hostile, but it is profoundly alive with memory. Visitors often leave with a mix of awe and unease, feeling that they have walked through a place where time and memory refuse to yield, where the smells, sounds, and movements of a long-closed restaurant continue to play out in spectral form. Ocean View Deli is more than an abandoned building. It is a living echo of its past. Phantom laughter drifts through empty tables. Cold drafts sweep unseen across the floors, and the smell of fresh bread rises mysteriously from the kitchen. For anyone brave enough to linger after nightfall, the deli becomes a bridge between the present and the memories that refuse to fade, offering a chilling glimpse into a world where the past continues to serve its patrons, long after life has left the building. Garden State Grill in Elizabeth is a modest, unassuming building tucked along a quiet street. By day, it appears abandoned, its windows dusty, the paint faded, and the neon sign dimmed to a mere whisper of its former glow. But when darkness falls, the restaurant seems to awaken in a manner that defies explanation. Locals speak in hushed tones about strange happenings inside the old dining hall, phenomena that blur the line between memory and reality. Visitors report seeing shadowy figures seated at tables, the faint clink of cutlery and plates echoing through the empty room, and flickering lights that seem to have no source. The shadowy patrons are the most striking of these apparitions. They appear as human shapes, sitting quietly at tables, their movements deliberate yet ghostly. They hold plates, forks, and glasses, mimicking the dining routines of a bygone era, yet when approached, they vanish instantly, leaving empty chairs and cold air in their place. Witnesses describe the figures as indistinct, blurred at the edges, almost as though they are made of smoke or fading light. Some report that the figures repeat the same actions endlessly, eating, sipping, or gesturing toward companions who are never seen. There is an unsettling familiarity in these scenes, as though the grill is replaying fragments of life it once hosted. Flickering lights often accompany these ghostly patrons. The overhead lamps sway or blink intermittently, casting fleeting shadows across the walls. Some visitors have tried to trace the source, only to find the bulbs intact and the wiring untouched. The effect is disorienting, making the room feel alive with motion even when it is completely empty. The light seems to interact with the apparitions, highlighting their presence one moment and leaving them invisible the next, as though the environment itself is attuned to the echoes of the past. Beyond the visual phenomena, the grill is known for unexplained sounds. The soft scrape of chairs on tile, the distant clatter of plates, and the low murmur of voices are often reported. Occasionally, a visitor claims to hear laughter, faint and almost musical, rising from an empty corner of the restaurant. The combination of sound, shadow, and flickering light creates an experience that is immersive and unnerving, giving the impression that the restaurant is alive with memory. The kitchen, though long unused, is another source of eerie activity. Some witnesses report seeing shadows pass through the doorways, moving along countertops and stoves that have been cold for years. Others smell the faint scent of footy bread baking, coffee brewing, or sauces simmering, even though the appliances are long defunct. These sensory echoes reinforce the feeling that Garden State Grill is trapped in a loop of its former existence, replaying moments of preparation and service for anyone who dares to observe. The activity is subtle but unmistakable, creating an impression that the restaurant remembers its busiest nights and continues to honor them in spectral form. Patrons who have ventured inside at night often feel a presence hovering just out of reach. Cold drafts sweep along the floors, brushing past visitors as if invisible hands are moving through the space. The air sometimes shifts suddenly, carrying the smell of long-forgotten meals or the faint warmth of crowded tables. Some report a tingling sensation along their skin, as though the room itself is aware of their presence, acknowledging their intrusion yet not allowing them full understanding. It is an unsettling blend of welcome and warning, a reminder that the echoes of past lives can linger where memory is strongest. One evening, a small group of paranormal investigators entered Garden State Grill, hoping to document the reported phenomena. As they stepped inside, they were greeted by the soft flicker of lights above, casting moving shadows across empty tables. From the far end of the dining room, faint sounds of eating and quiet conversation drifted through the air. A shadowy figure appeared at a booth, sitting upright, hands folded over a plate, only to vanish when approached. In the kitchen, they detected the faint smell of coffee, warm and inviting, accompanied by the subtle clatter of utensils, though no equipment was running. The investigators left with recordings that captured faint voices and footsteps, yet nothing that could explain the source. Each person departed with a similar impression. The restaurant is not empty, but filled with the memory of itself, replaying scenes of life that no longer exist. Garden State Grill is more than an abandoned building. It is a vessel of lingering moments, a place where the past continues to occupy space in the present. For those brave enough to enter after dark, the grill becomes a theater of memory, where echoes of meals, conversation, and quiet domesticity play on endlessly. The restaurant is alive in a way that defies explanation. A spectral reminder that some places never truly die, they simply continue to exist in the memories and routines of those who once made them whole. Visitors leave Garden State Grill with a sense of awe mixed with unease, carrying the memory of shadowed patrons, flickering lights, and the whispers of a life that persists in echoes. The restaurant stands as a monument to the past, offering a chilling but captivating glimpse into a world where the ordinary moments of daily life continue to unfold, long after the last customer has departed. Liberty Cafe in Paterson is a small, weathered building on a quiet corner, its windows fogged and walls faded from years of exposure to rain and sun. By daylight, it looks abandoned, the tables empty and chairs stacked or askew, and the air inside carries only the faint scent of dust and old wood. But after dark, the cafe seems to awaken in a way that blurs the line between reality and memory. Those who step inside report strange phenomena: phantom waiters moving between tables, invisible meals being served, the clink of silverware, and soft murmurs that echo as if the restaurant were still bustling with patrons long gone. The most striking of these experiences is the presence of phantom waiters. Visitors often see figures moving with purpose through the dining room, trays balanced in their hands, plates appearing and disappearing as they navigate the empty tables. The figures are human-shaped but blurred, shifting between solid and shadow, like memories caught in motion. Some witnesses describe the waiters as performing familiar tasks, setting down food, wiping tables, or refilling glasses, yet whenever anyone tries to approach them, they vanish instantly, leaving only the faint impression of movement in the air. The ghostly activity is not violent or threatening, but it is profoundly disorienting, giving the impression that the cafe is trapped in a loop of its former operation. The sounds of Liberty Cafe are equally haunting. Soft clinks of silverware, the scrape of chairs across the wooden floor, and low murmurs echo through the empty space. These noises often appear to move through the room, drifting from booth to booth, or circling the dining area as though invisible patrons are conversing. Sometimes laughter can be hearted, gentle, fleeting, and impossible to locate, rising from corners or hallways that appear completely empty. The combination of sound and movement creates an immersive environment, making it difficult for visitors to separate what is real from what belongs to the echoes of the past. Even the kitchen contributes to the spectral activity, though the appliances have been cold for years and the stoves untouched. Witnesses often report faint sounds of cooking to the sizzle of pans, the clatter of utensils, and the soft hum of machinery long broken. Occasionally, the scent of food appears, a tantalizing aroma of simmering soup or fresh bread, drifting through the empty cafe. No one can locate its source. The ovens remain cold, the counters covered in dust. The smells, sounds, and movement all work together to create the illusion. Visitors also notice subtle shifts in temperature and air currents. Cold drafts sweep along the aisles, brushing past patrons as though invisible hands are passing through. Some feel brief touches on their shoulders or arms, the faintest sensation that someone is guiding or observing them. Others report the air becoming warm for a brief moment near certain tables, only to shift suddenly elsewhere. These changes often coincide with the appearance of phantom figures, giving the impression that the cafe itself is alive, aware of its visitors, and participating in the reenactment of long-past meals. One evening, a small group of paranormal enthusiasts entered Liberty Cafe to document the unusual activity. As they stepped inside, the faint murmur of voices and clinking of dishes seemed to greet them. The investigators followed sounds of scraping chairs and footsteps into the kitchen, where the faint aroma of cooked meals lingered in the air. No evidence of functioning equipment was found, yet every sensory experience suggested the presence of diners and staff long gone. Their recordings captured faint whispers and the sound of plates moving on tables, but no figure could be clearly identified. The team left with a shared impression. Liberty Cafe exists in a state of perpetual memory, where the echoes of life replay endlessly for anyone present. The cafe's haunting is not malevolent, but it is profoundly affecting. Phantom waiters, invisible meals, soft murmurs, and clinking silverware combine to create a vivid, immersive experience. Visitors often leave feeling a mixture of awe, unease, and nostalgia, as though they have witnessed a world caught between past and present. The building holds the memory of its busiest nights, replaying them in subtle, spectral form for anyone who steps inside after hours. Liberty Cafe is more than an abandoned restaurant. It is a vessel for the persistence of memory. Its empty tables and dusty floors conceal a vibrant, invisible activity that continues to unfold, long after the last human left. The kitchen hums with the ghostly echoes of preparation and service, while the air itself shifts in response to unseen presences. For those brave enough to linger after dark, Liberty Cafe becomes a portal into the past. Where meals are served, conversations continue, and the memories of life persist, endlessly replaying in spectral form. Visitors depart with the sense that the restaurant is alive in memory, not in flesh. That the ordinary rhythms of dining, to the placement of a fork, the movement of a chair, the clink of a plate, can endure beyond the presence of living patrons. Liberty Cafe stands as a haunting reminder that some places are never truly empty, carrying the traces of those who once walked their floors, laughed at their tables, and served meals that continue to exist in echoes. For anyone who dares to enter after dark, Camden Roadhouse sits on a quiet stretch of Camden Road, its brick exterior faded from decades of weather and neglect. By day, the building seems deserted, the windows clouded with grime, and the neon sign above the entrance flickering weakly, long past its prime. Yet after dusk, the Roadhouse awakens in ways that defy explanation. Locals and adventurous visitors alike report a series of unexplained phenomena: doors slamming violently, footsteps echoing across the wooden floors, and ghostly figures appearing in the dining area near abandoned booths. For anyone who enters after dark, The atmosphere is thick with the sense that the past has not left, that the roadhouse remembers the laughter, arguments, and quiet moments of long-gone patrons. One of the most commonly reported experiences involves the sound of footsteps. Visitors often hear them pacing across the floorboards, seemingly coming from multiple directions at once. The steps are heavy and deliberate at times, light and hurried at others, as though invisible patrons are walking, running, or shifting between tables. Some have described hearing the unmistakable drag of a chair across the floor, followed by the quiet clatter of a glass or plate being set down, even though the dining area sits empty. The sound appears to move fluidly through the roadhouse, giving the impression that the space is occupied by dozens of unseen diners. Ghostly figures are another central part of the Camden Roadhouse legend. Shadowy silhouettes are most often seen near the booths, their forms fleeting and indistinct, appearing just long enough to register in the corner of Oni's eye. Some witnesses report seeing figures rise from seats, gesturing as though speaking to companions who are invisible, while others describe patrons simply staring ahead, frozen in mid-motion. Attempts to approach these figures invariably end in frustration as the shadows dissolve, leaving nothing but an empty booth and a cold draft in their place. The images are fleeting but vivid, often accompanied by the faint echo of laughter, low murmurs, or the occasional clinking of silverware. The doors of the roadhouse are particularly active. Many visitors report doors slamming with sudden force, sometimes multiple times in succession, even when all entrances are securely latched. At other times, the doors creak open slowly, as if pushed by an unseen hand, only to shut moments later on their own. These movements seem to have no pattern, yet always leaving a sense of urgency, as if the roadhouse itself is aware of the presence of outsiders, and is responding in ways both subtle and alarming. The combination of slamming doors and footsteps creates an unnerving auditory landscape, one that convinces even the bravest that the building is alive in its own haunted way. In addition to sound and movement, the air inside the Camden Roadhouse carries an unusual weight. Cold drafts sweep through the dining area, often localized around the booths or along the main aisle. Brushing past visitors with an almost sentient touch. Some have reported a faint smell of food, like roasted meat or frying onions, drifting from nowhere, evoking the sensation of a kitchen still in operation despite the absence of any working appliances. The mixture of temperature changes, scents, and unseen movement adds layers of realism to the hauntings, creating the sensation that the roadhouse is simultaneously empty and fully occupied by echoes of its past. Several paranormal investigators have attempted to document the unusual activity. On one night, a team entered with cameras and recording equipment, hoping to capture the sounds and images reported by local witnesses. Almost immediately, the team heard heavy footsteps pacing across the floor above them, although no stairs led to an upper level. Doors slammed in the distance, echoing through the empty room, and shadowy forms appeared fleetingly near the booths. Cameras recorded flickers of movement, but no solid forms were captured in still images. Even more unnerving was the sound of faint murmuring, low and continuous, as though invisible patrons were having conversations just out of reach. The haunting of Camden Roadhouse is not overtly threatening, but it is profoundly affecting. Visitors often describe a sense of being observed, a feeling that invisible eyes track their movements through the dining area. The combination of ghostly figures, slamming doors, footsteps, and unseen whispers produces a sensory experience that feels immersive, a recreation of moments long past in which the roadhouse was alive with human activity. The building itself seems as if time within its walls is not linear but layered with echoes of those who once dined, drank, and conversed there. Camden Roadhouse stands as a place where the past refuses to let go. Phantom figures pacing booths, the clatter of invisible dishes, slamming doors, and whispers drifting through the air create a vivid tableau of life that persists long after the last human departed. Visitors leave with a mixture of awe, unease, and a lingering sense that the roadhouse is alive with memory, a building where ordinary activities as sitting, eating, speaking, Lafinga continue to unfold invisibly, endlessly repeating the scenes of its vibrant past. It is a haunting reminder that some places never truly become empty. They simply continue to exist as echoes of what once was, welcoming anyone brave enough to witness their spectral life. Maplewood Tavern sits quietly on a corner of Maplewood South Main Street. Its once bright sign faded. And the windows streaked with years of neglect. By day, it seems abandoned, the bar polished but empty, the tables covered with a thin layer of dust. The neon lights that once welcomed patrons now flicker weakly or not at all, and the air carries the faint scent of aged wood and forgotten spirits. Yet when night falls, the tavern seems to awaken, and visitors report an eerie blend of sights and sounds that suggest the building is far from empty. Shadowy figures linger by the bar, phantom music plays faintly, and the laughter of unseen patrons echoes through the empty halls, creating an experience that is both captivating and unnerving. The most frequently reported phenomena are the ghostly figures near the bar. Witnesses often describe silhouettes standing in the dim light, their forms shifting and indistinct, as though made from smoke and shadow. Sometimes the figures appear to be seated on bar stools, engaged in muted conversation, or raising invisible glasses to toast one another. Other times they linger behind the counter, hands gesturing as if serving drinks, only to vanish the moment anyone attempts to approach. As though made from smoke and shadow. The figures move with an uncanny fluidity, drifting across the room or fading into the walls, leaving only the faint impression that someone has passed moments before. Many visitors describe a sensation of being watched, as though the shadowy patrons are aware of their presence, silently observing every movement. Alongside the spectral figures, the tavern is haunted by sounds that seem to defy explanation. Late at night, visitors report hearing faint music drifting from nowhere. Sometimes the soft strumming of a guitar. Other times a piano playing a slow, melancholic tune. The notes echo through the empty tavern, bouncing off the walls and creating an almost tangible presence. Mixed with the music is the sound of laughter, low and warm at first, growing louder as it circulates through the room. The laughter is never threatening, yet it carries a ghostly quality, as though it belongs to patrons who have long since departed. Some have reported that the laughter seems to respond to their own movements, growing softer or louder depending on where they stand, further blurring the line between reality and the spectral. Doors and windows of Maplewood Tavern also contribute to its haunted reputation. Occasionally, the front door swings open or slams shut despite being latched, and the windows rattle as though invisible hands are brushing against them. These movements are sporadic and unpredictable, often occurring when visitors are focused on the bar or listening to the phantom music. Some have felt subtle shifts in the air, a sudden chill passing over them as a shadowy figure moves nearby. Others report the faint smell of drinks or food, aromas that seem to drift from the bar and kitchen despite all appliances being cold and unused for decades. One night, a small group of paranormal enthusiasts entered the tavern to investigate the activity. They carried cameras, audio recorders, and EMF detectors, eager to capture evidence of the reported phenomena. As soon as they stepped inside, the faint sound of music filled the room, accompanied by a soft, almost conversational murmur. Shadowy forms appeared near the bar, moving between tables and fading as the investigators approached. Chairs scraped across the floor, yet no one was visible. The group reported feeling sudden, inexplicable chills and brief touches on their arms or shoulders, as if unseen hands were guiding or acknowledging them. Audio captured faint laughter and music, though no instruments or human voices were present. And the video recordings registered fleeting shadows that vanished when examined closely. By the time they left, the investigators were left with an overwhelming impression. Maplewood Tavern exists in a perpetual echo of its past, where the energy of patrons and staff continues to replay long after the last person departed. The haunting of Maplewood Tavern is not malicious, but it is deeply immersive. Shadowy figures, phantom music, laughter, and inexplicable movements create an experience that engages all the senses. Visitors often leave with a mixture of awe, unease, and a strange nostalgia, as if they have glimpsed life as it once was within the taverna's walls. The building appears to replay fragments of memory, capturing the ordinary rhythms of social Lifia, pouring drinks, conversing, laughing. frozen in time yet experienced as if they were happening in the present. For those brave enough to linger after dark, Maplewood Tavern offers a unique glimpse into the past. Shadowy figures linger by the bar. Ghostly music drifts through the empty hall, and laughter circulates like wind, filling the space with the presence of those who once gathered there. The tavern becomes more than a building. It becomes a vessel for memory and spirit, a place where those who once gathered there. Visitors leave carrying a sense of wonder and unease, a reminder that some places never truly become empty, holding on to the echoes of those who lived and laughed and lingered within their walls. Maplewood Tavern stands as a testament to the persistence of memory. Phantom figures, ghostly music, and echoes of laughter create an environment where the past and present intertwine. Every shadow, every whisper, every fleeting melody suggests that the tavern continues to host unseen patrons and staff. It is a place where visitors can feel the lingering presence of life long gone, an enduring reminder that memory and spirit can inhabit a place long after the living have departed. Crossroads Diner in Morristown sits at the intersection of two quiet streets, a relic of a bygone era. By day, it appears abandoned, the windows streaked with dust, neon signs flickering weakly, and tables empty and cold. The smell of old coffee lingers faintly in the air, though the last cup was brewed decades ago. Yet when night falls, the diner seems to awaken, and visitors have reported strange occurrences that suggest it is far from deserted. Chairs slide across the floor on their own, faint voices drift from the long-abandoned kitchen, and some even claim to have seen figures carrying trays of invisible food, moving silently between tables as if the diner were still serving customers. One of the most commonly reported experiences involves the movement of furniture. Chairs scrape across the wooden floors, sometimes tipping over with an abrupt clatter, while tables shift slightly, as though being adjusted for unseen patrons. The movements are sporadic, occurring without warning, and often coincide with other phenomena, such as the faint murmur of voices or the smell of cooking drifting from the kitchen. Visitors have described a chilling sensation of being observed, a sense that invisible diners and staff are still present, going about their business in a parallel reality that overlays the physical space of the diner. Phantom figures are another hallmark of the Crossroads Diner hauntings. Shadowy forms are often seen gliding through the dining area, particularly near the booths and counter. Some witnesses report seeing waitstaff moving back and forth as if taking orders, their forms indistinct, but their presence undeniably felt. These figures are rarely threatening. Instead, they create a profound sense of nostalgia, as if the dinner's long-past life continues to unfold in ghostly repetition. The kitchen is a particularly active area. Visitors often hear the faint clatter of pots and pans, whispers of conversation, and the sizzle of food cooking, despite the absence of heat or flame. Some have claimed to see shadowy figures moving among the counters, their hands mimicking the actions of preparing meals or setting trays. The voices are low, almost conversational, as if the staff is communicating with one another in hushed tones. This auditory activity often accompanies other phenomena, such as sudden cold drafts sweeping across the diner or lights flickering unexpectedly, adding to the overall sense that the building is alive with echoes of its former operation. Doors and windows contribute to the eerie atmosphere. The front door occasionally creaks open or slams shut without warning, and windows rattle as though invisible hands are brushing against them. These movements are unpredictable, appearing at random intervals, and often coincide with the appearance of shadowy figures or the sound of phantom voices. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile phenomena creates an immersive experience that convinces even skeptical visitors that the diner is more than just a static, abandoned buildinga. It is a space haunted by memory, energy, and lingering life. Several paranormal investigators have attempted to document the activity at Crossroads Diner. Equipped with cameras, audio recorders, and electromagnetic field detectors, they entered the building hoping to capture evidence of the reported phenomena. Almost immediately, the team heard footsteps pacing across the floor and chairs scraping in the dining area. Faint voices emerged from the kitchen, though no one was present, and shadowy forms were seen moving between tables. EMF readings spiked intermittently, particularly near the counter and kitchen. Audio recordings later captured murmured conversations, clinking dishes, and the faint sound of trays being set down, though no physical objects were involved. The investigators left with the undeniable impression that the diner is a vessel for lingering memories, replaying scenes from its bustling past in ghostly detail. The haunting of Crossroads Diner is subtle yet immersive. Phantom figures, moving furniture, faint voices, and the smell of long-extinguished meals create an experience that engages all the senses. Visitors often report feeling a mixture of awe and unease, sensing the presence of those who once worked, dined, and socialized within its walls. The diner becomes more than a building. It becomes a stage where echoes of the past perform continuously, allowing the living to glimpse life as it once existed there. For those brave enough to enter after dark, Crossroads Diner offers a hauntingly vivid glimpse into a time long gone. Shadowy figures carry trays of invisible food. Chairs scrape across empty floors, and the kitchen hums with phantom activity. The diner seems aware of its visitors, responding with movement, sound, and fleeting images that suggest it remembers every detail of its operational days. Patrons who linger often leave with an unforgettable impression, a feeling that they have witnessed life continuing invisibly, a spectral reenactment of ordinary moments preserved within the walls. Crossroads Diner in Morristown stands as a monument to memory and presence. Phantom figures, moving furniture, and unseen activity suggest that the building is never truly empty. The sounds, smells, and fleeting images of long-gone diners and staff replay endlessly for anyone willing to step inside after dark. Visitors depart with a sense of wonder and unease, reminded that some places hold on to their past, creating a living memory that continues to unfold invisibly, silently, and hauntingly for all who enter. Pine Hill Restaurant in Cherry Hill stands as a relic of a time when the streets around it were bustling with diners and families seeking a warm meal. By day, the building appears abandoned, the windows streaked with age and the paint peeling from decades of exposure. The tables sit covered in dust, and the old counter gleams faintly, hinting at the lively service it once hosted. Yet as the sun sets, the restaurant seems to awaken in ways that defy explanation. Phantom chefs are sometimes seen moving behind the counter, utensils in hand, chopping and stirring invisible ingredients, while ghostly diners appear in booths, seated with plates of food that vanish when approached. Visitors report sudden cold drafts sweeping through the dining room, along with whispers that seem to emanate directly from the walls, speaking words that cannot quite be understood. One of the most common experiences at Pine Hill involves the appearance of these spectral figures. Visitors describe shadowy chefs appearing behind the counter, moving with precise motions as if preparing meals for patrons long gone. Their forms are indistinct, sometimes merging with the shadows of the room, yet their presence is undeniable. Observers have recounted seeing trays carried across tables by invisible hands, dishes set down as if to serve unseen customers. Meanwhile, ghostly diners occupy the booths, seated with their backs straight, heads bent over invisible meals, occasionally gesturing or whispering to one another. These figures are never threatening, but they leave a chilling impression, as though the restaurant is caught in a loop of its past life, repeating the routines of staff and customers endlessly. Alongside these visual phenomena, Pine Hill is filled with auditory experiences that create a deeply immersive haunting. Visitors frequently report faint whispers echoing from the walls, seeming to follow them as they move through the dining area. The whispers are fragmented, often indistinct, but carry a sense of urgency or conversation. The sounds of utensils clinking on plates, chairs scraping along wooden floors, and the faint sizzle of cooking can be heard even though no activity is taking place. Some have reported that these sounds respond to their presence, growing louder when they pause in a particular booth, or fading when they attempt to record the activity. The effect is disorienting, as though the restaurant itself is aware of its visitors, replaying the motions and sounds of its former life in real time. Cold drafts are another hallmark of the haunting. Visitors often feel sudden shifts in temperature, a chill sweeping across the dining room without any logical source. The drafts can be brief or linger in one corner, brushing against shoulders or hands, adding to the sense of being accompanied by invisible presences. These cold touches often coincide with the appearance of ghostly chefs or diners, further reinforcing the impression that Pine Hill is alive with residual energy from decades of activity. Some visitors describe feeling a gentle pressure, as if an unseen hand has brushed against them, guiding them toward a booth or the counter, a subtle interaction between the living and the lingering spirits. Doors and windows occasionally contribute to the eerie atmosphere. The front door may swing open slightly, or slam shut without warning, while old window panes rattle as though brushed by invisible hands. Lights that are supposed to be long dead sometimes flicker, casting fleeting shadows across the walls. These occurrences are unpredictable, often appearing at moments when other phenomena, shadowy figures, whispers, or cold drafts are present, creating an overwhelming sensory experience. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile activity makes the restaurant feel alive, where every movement, every sound, and every scent has a memory attached to it. Paranormal investigators who have visited Pine Hill have documented numerous unexplained events. Cameras have captured fleeting shadows in booths and near the kitchen. Audio equipment has recorded whispers, clinks, and faint laughter. EMF detectors have registered spikes near the counter and dining area. These recordings often coincide with visitor experiences, capturing the presence of unseen figures performing tasks long abandoned by the living. Many investigators have left the restaurant with the profound impression that Pine Hill is a vessel for memories, preserving and replaying the ordinary routines of its past life for anyone willing to witness it. For those brave enough to linger after dark, Pine Hill Restaurant offers a unique and haunting experience. Phantom chefs move behind the counter. Ghostly diners occupy empty booths. Whispers float along the walls. Cold drafts sweep through the room. The restaurant becomes more than a building, invisible to most but perceptible to those who step inside after hours. Pine Hill Restaurant in Cherry Hill is a striking example of how a place can hold on to its past. Phantom figures, sudden cold drafts, whispers, and the echoes of unseen diners create an immersive haunting that engages all the senses. Visitors leave with a sense of awe, unease, and nostalgia, feeling the persistent presence of those who once lived, worked, and dined within its walls. The restaurant continues to exist not just as a physical space, but as a vessel of memory, preserving the spirits of its past and offering a haunting glimpse into a life long gone, endlessly replayed for anyone willing to witness it. Shoreline Grill in Long Branch stands as a quiet testament to a past era, its exterior weathered by years of coastal storms and salty sea air. By daylight, it appears abandoned, the once bright signage faded, windows clouded with dust, and the boards along the entryway creaking with the slightest breeze. Inside, the tables are covered with a thin layer of dust, chairs slightly askew, and the faint scent of old sea salt lingers in the air. Yet when night falls, the restaurant seems to awaken in ways that defy explanation. Visitors have reported seeing shadowy figures standing near the windows, gazing out at the shoreline as though watching for boats long vanished. Some claim to catch fleeting glimpses of figures moving behind the bar, while others notice the subtle aroma of seafood lingering in the air, even though no cooking has taken place in years. The most common sightings involve shadowy forms near the windows. These figures are rarely fully visible, often appearing as dark silhouettes against the faint moonlight or streetlights outside. Observers have described the figures as motionless at times, standing as though lost in thought, while at other moments they seem to shift or glide slowly across the dining area. Witnesses report a sensation of being watched, a feeling that the figures are aware of their presence, yet untouchable, occupying a space between the living and the spectral. The effect is disconcerting but not aggressive. The figures seem to exist as echoes of patrons and staff from the restaurant's lively days. The aroma of seafood is another strange and unsettling phenomenon. Guests entering the Shoreline Grill have described the faint smell of fried fish, Sauta copyright Ed clams, and baked lobster, wafting through the dining room or along the bar. Some visitors report that the smell seems to move with them, growing stronger as they approach a particular area, such as the kitchen or the corner table by the large windows overlooking the shore. This olfactory presence enhances the overall haunting, blending memory, atmosphere, and the sense of a past life replaying within the empty space. Auditory experiences accompany the visual and olfactory phenomena. Chairs scrape the floor as if being adjusted for unseen diners. And some claim to hear laughter or soft conversations drifting from areas where no one is present. The sounds are subtle, almost distant, and seem to follow visitors as they move through the restaurant. Whispered voices rise and fall unpredictably, adding to the sense that Shoreline Grill is not simply empty, but alive with residual energy, a memory of routines and interactions frozen in time. The bar area is another hotspot for paranormal activity. Shadowy figures are sometimes seen moving behind the counter, their forms indistinct but their actions deliberate, as if preparing drinks or clearing tables. EMF readings taken by paranormal investigators often spike near the bar and along the main dining room, coinciding with reports of sudden cold drafts. Many visitors describe these chills as brushing against their skin like the ghostly presence of a hand, fleeting yet undeniable. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile sensations. Visual, auditory, and tactile sensations. And tactile sensations. Sensations. Creates a fully immersive haunting, engaging multiple senses. And reinforcing the idea that the restaurant's past continues to persist in the present. In the present, the combination of visual, auditory, and tactile sensations creates a fully immersive haunting, engaging multiple senses, and reinforcing the idea that the restaurant's past continues to persist in the present. In the present, the combination of visual, auditory, and tactile sensations creates a fully immersive haunting, engaging multiple senses, and reinforcing the idea that the restaurant's past continues to persist in the present. In the present, the combination of visual, auditory, and tactile sensations creates a fully immersive haunting, engaging multiple senses, and reinforcing the idea that the restaurant's past continues to persist in the present. In the present, the combination of visual, auditory, and tactile sensations creates a fully immersive haunting, engaging multiple senses, and reinforcing the idea that the restaurant's past continues to persist in the present. In the present, the combination of visual, auditory, and tactile sensations creates a fully immersive haunting, engaging multiple senses, and reinforcing the idea that the restaurant's past continues to persist in the present. In the present, the combination of visual, auditory, and tactile sensations creates a fully immersive haunting, engaging multiple senses, and reinforcing the idea that the restaurant's past continues to persist in the present. In the present, the combination of visual, auditory, and tactile sensations creates a fully immersive haunting, engaging multiple senses, and reinforcing the idea that the restaurant's past continues to persist in the present. In the present, the combination of visual, auditory, and tactile sensations creates a fully immersive haunting, engaging multiple senses, and reinforcing the idea that the restaurant's past continues to persist in the present. In the present, the combination of visual, auditory, and tactile sensations creates a fully immersive haunting, engaging multiple senses. Windows and doors play a significant role in the eerie atmosphere. The large windows facing the shore occasionally rattle or fog inexplicably, while the front door may swing open slightly or emit a soft creak as though welcoming unseen guests. Light from outside can cast shifting shadows across the room, enhancing the illusion of movement and presence. At times, these shadows seem to interact with the reported figures, giving the impression of a silent dance between past and present. Some visitors have even reported seeing reflections in the glass that do not match their own movements, further deepening the sense of the supernatural at work within Shoreline Grill. Paranormal investigators who have explored the restaurant often report multiple unexplained occurrences. Cameras capture fleeting shadows moving through empty areas. Audio recorders pick up whispers and faint clinks of dishes. And temperature fluctuations occur in spots where no ventilation or drafts are possible. These phenomena often coincide with visitor reports, suggesting a persistent energy that has not faded despite years of abandonment. Some investigators suggest that the restaurant is a repository of memories, preserving the final moments of service and interaction in spectral form, allowing anyone who enters after dark to witness echoes of its former life. For those willing to enter Shoreline Grill after dark, the experience is immersive and unsettling. Shadowy figures stand by windows. Ghostly chefs appear behind the bar. Faint whispers echo through the walls. The scent of seafood drifts inexplicably through the air. The restaurant seems to exist simultaneously in two realities: the physical world, abandoned and silent, and a spectral echo where life continues, invisible but perceptible. Visitors often leave with a mix of awe and unease, having sensed the lingering presence of those who once lived, worked, and dined within its walls. Shoreline Grill in Long Branch remains a haunting reminder that some places hold on to their past. Phantom figures, sudden cold drafts, whispers, and unexplained scents combine to create a living memory. The routines of long-gone diners and staff continue in ghostly detail, ensuring that the past remains present for all who enter its doors after dark. Valley View Eatery in Patterson sits quietly among the worn streets, its brick exterior weathered by time and the salty air of nearby rivers. By day, the building appears deserted, with boarded windows and the faint odor of stale coffee lingering near the doorway. Inside, dust blankets the tables, and the floor creaks under the lightest touch. Yet as evening approaches, the restaurant seems to awaken in ways that defy reason. Visitors have reported hearing ghostly footsteps pacing the dining room, chairs scraping across the floor as though someone invisible moves between tables. Some have even caught sight of a shadowy figure wiping down surfaces, moving with deliberate, familiar motions, despite the fact that Valley View Eatery has been abandoned for decades. The figure seen by witnesses is never fully clear, often appearing as a dark silhouette against the dim light that filters through broken windows. Observers describe the figure's movements as purposeful, as if performing a task it has repeated countless times. It glides silently from table to table, wiping surfaces and occasionally straightening chairs, yet vanishes when approached directly. The haunting is subtle but profoundly unsettling. The restaurant feels alive with the residual energy of those who once worked and dined there, as if time itself refuses to leave the building. Accompanying the visual phenomena are faint sounds that seem impossible to explain. Patrons often hear the soft scrape of chairs, the dull thud of objects being moved, and footsteps echoing across the empty floor. These sounds rarely occur in isolation. They often coincide with the appearance of shadowy figures or sudden drafts that chill visitors to the bone. Some have reported hearing muted conversation or the clinking of plates, as though a full dining experience is continuing invisibly alongside the physical world. Even when the restaurant is completely silent, the subtle echo of activity persists, leaving visitors disoriented and aware of a presence that cannot be seen. Cold spots and sudden gusts of air further enhance the haunting at Valley View Eatery. Many visitors report feeling a chill that seems to follow them across the dining room, brushing their skin like the touch of a fleeting hand. These drafts often appear near the ghostly figure or along areas where footsteps have been heard, adding a tactile dimension to the already eerie atmosphere. Some witnesses describe the sensation of being watched, as if unseen eyes track their every movement while the invisible worker continues its quiet tasks. The combination of sight, sound, and sensation creates a fully immersive experience, where the line between the living and the spectral feels blurred. Windows and doors contribute to the sense of the supernatural within Valley View Eatery. On several occasions, the front door has been observed to swing open or close by itself, accompanied by the faint creak of hinges long unused. Occasionally, broken window panes rattle without wind, casting shifting shadows across the walls. The play of light and darkness often makes the shadowy figure appear and disappear in the blink of an eye, reinforcing the impression that the restaurant is caught in a perpetual loop of activity, replaying moments of its past life for anyone who dares to stay after dark. Paranormal investigators who have visited Valley View Eatery frequently record multiple unexplained phenomena. Cameras capture fleeting images of figures moving across empty tables. Audio equipment picks up whispers and footsteps, and EMF detectors register unexplained spikes near the dining area. Many investigators suggest that the building holds residual energy from its days of operation, a memory embedded in the walls that manifests in the form of ghostly figures, phantom sounds, and subtle sensations. Visitors often leave with a profound sense of awe and unease, realizing that the restaurant is not merely abandoned, but preserved in some spectral form of its former life. The ghostly figure wiping down tables is a particularly striking part of the haunting. Observers have described it moving with care, as if ensuring the tables are ready for patrons who will never arrive. This repetitive motion, combined with the sounds of chairs moving and dishes clinking, creates the impression of a dining experience trapped in time. The figure does not acknowledge visitors, yet its presence is undeniably tangible, a reminder of the routines and rituals that once defined Valley View Eatery. Even brief encounters with this apparition leave a lasting impression, as if the observer has glimpsed the soul of the restaurant itself. For those brave enough to linger after dark, Valley View Eatery offers a haunting and immersive experience. Ghostly footsteps echo across the floor, chairs scrape in empty spaces. Whispers of past patrons drift through the air, and the shadowy figure moves silently among the tables. Cold drafts brush against skin, and the faint sense of being watched pervades the room. The restaurant seems suspended between two worlds, the physical, abandoned space of the present and a spectral echo of its lively past. Valley View Eatery in Paterson stands as a testament to how some places never truly empty. Phantom figures, footsteps, whispers, and cold drafts combine to create a lingering presence that is both captivating and unnerving. Visitors leave with a sense of having stepped into another dimension, where the routines of staff and patrons continue, unseen but felt, preserving the energy of lives long gone within the walls of an abandoned restaurant. Where the routines of staff and patrons continue, unseen but felt, preserving the energy of lives long gone within the walls of an abandoned restaurant. Preserving the energy of lives long gone within the walls of an abandoned restaurant. Sunset Deli in Red Bank has long stood as a relic of a bustling past, its once bright facade now dulled by years of weather and neglect. By day, the building seems deserted, its windows clouded with dust and the sign above the door faded and chipped. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of aged wood and stale coffee, and dust coats the tables and counters where patrons once gathered. Yet as night falls, the deli appears to awaken in ways that defy explanation. Visitors have reported seeing phantom patrons seated silently in the booths, frozen mid-meal or in conversation, their presence both tangible and fleeting. Some have heard the faint clatter of silverware, the scrape of chairs across the floor, and the soft murmur of voices where no one walks, creating an atmosphere that is both captivating and unnerving. The most striking phenomenon involves the shadowy figures that appear in the booths. These patrons are often glimpsed peripherally, their shapes indistinct but unmistakably human. Observers describe them as seated, heads tilted in conversation, hands poised over invisible plates. Despite their presence, the figures do not acknowledge the living. They remain locked in their spectral routines, as though caught in a loop of some final meal. Witnesses often experience a chilling sensation of being watched, though the eyes of these phantom diners never seem to meet their own. The figures sometimes vanish suddenly, leaving behind an empty table and the lingering sense that the space was never truly unoccupied. Auditory experiences accompany the visual phenomena at Sunset Deli. Many visitors report hearing the soft clinking of silverware against plates, footsteps echoing along the tiled floor, and chairs moving as if adjusted by invisible hands. These sounds are subtle, almost distant, but they follow observers through the dining room, creating a sense of a presence that is both persistent and elusive. Whispered conversations rise and fall without discernible source, often just beyond the threshold of understanding. Some have described hearing laughter, the kind of light, casual chuckle shared between friends over a meal. Yet when they turn to look, no one is there. The interplay of sound and sight reinforces the haunting, giving the impression that Sunset Deli remains frozen in time, replaying its past life in ghostly detail. The deli's layout seems to amplify the eerie phenomena. Rows of booths, once filled with patrons, now provide a stage for spectral activity. The corners of the dining room are often the focal points of sightings, where shadowy figures linger or footsteps seem to originate. Observers report that the closer they approach a booth where a phantom sits, the more intense the activity becomes. Chairs scrape more audibly, whispers rise in volume, and faint clinks of silverware echo through the empty room. In some cases, visitors have claimed to feel a sudden cold draft brushing their skin, as if the phantom patrons themselves are exuding an invisible presence that interacts with the living. The deli counter is another hotspot for paranormal activity. Some visitors have seen the faint outline of a figure moving behind the counter, performing tasks as if preparing orders. The shadowy motions are deliberate and meticulous, mimicking the routines of the staff who once worked there. Occasionally, the sound of plates stacking or a cash register drawer opening and closing can be heard, though the equipment has long been inactive. These occurrences lend credibility to the idea that Sunset Deli is more than just a bandinita. It is a repository of residual energy, a space where past life continues to manifest in spectral form. Lighting and reflections contribute to the haunting as well. Moonlight filtering through dusty windows casts elongated shadows across the floor and walls, creating shapes that seem to interact with the ghostly patrons. Observers sometimes report seeing figures reflected in mirrors or window panes, only for the reflection to disappear when approached. The interplay of light, shadow, and spectral presence creates a dynamic environment in which reality and memory appear to overlap, reinforcing the sense that Sunset Deli exists in two layers simultaneously: the abandoned space of the present and a ghostly echo of its lively past. Investigations by paranormal enthusiasts often reveal additional unexplained phenomena. Cameras capture fleeting shadows moving across empty booths. Audio equipment picks up faint murmurs and clinking sounds, and EMF readings fluctuate unexpectedly in areas where activity is reported. Visitors describe a palpable energy in the air, a sensation that the building itself is aware of their presence and responsive in some intangible way. Even brief visits leave an impression, as if the observer has witnessed a replay of long-forgotten dinners, conversations, and laughter, all preserved within the walls of Sunset Deli. For those brave enough to linger after dark, Sunset Deli offers an immersive and unsettling experience. Phantom patrons sit silently in the booths. The soft clatter of silverware and moving chairs follows visitors, and whispers drift through the air like echoes of lives once lived. Cold drafts sweep across the room, amplifying the sense of an unseen presence. Sunset Deli in Red Bank stands as a haunting reminder that some places never truly empty. Shadowy figures, phantom sounds, and subtle sensations combine to create an environment that is both mysterious and evocative. Visitors leave with the sense that they have glimpsed a living memory, a replay of moments long past, preserved in ghostly detail within the walls of an abandoned restaurant, where the echoes of meals, conversations, and laughter continue to resonate for those who dare to step inside. Pine Grove Cafe in Princeton stands quietly on a narrow street, its exterior showing the wear of decades of service and neglect. By day, the building appears innocuous, a small, shuttered structure with faded signage and dusty windows. The aroma of coffee and baked goods, once a welcoming scent for regular patrons, has long since faded, replaced by the musty smell of aged wood and lingering memories. Yet, those who venture inside after hours report experiences that defy explanation. Visitors often hear the faint clatter of dishes echoing across the empty dining area, as though meals are still being prepared or served. Shadowy figures sometimes appear near the counter, moving with purpose, only to vanish instantly when approached, leaving behind the chilling sense that the cafe is never truly empty. The most commonly reported phenomenon involves the ghostly figures near the counter. Witnesses describe seeing silhouettes of men and women, often caught in mid-motion, reaching for cups, stacking plates, or adjusting utensils. These figures are indistinct, lacking clear features, but their presence feels tangible. They move silently, and though they perform ordinary tasks, they vanish the moment someone tries to make direct contact. Some observers report that the figures seem aware of being watched, pausing briefly before dissolving into shadows. This fleeting visibility leaves visitors with an unsettling awareness of a past life persisting in the present, replaying routines long forgotten. Sounds play a central role in the haunting of Pine Grove Cafe. Guests frequently hear the soft clatter of plates, the scrape of chairs against the floor, and the faint tinkling of cutlery. These noises are often directional, seeming to emanate from specific areas like the counter or the rows of booths, giving the impression that invisible patrons and staff are interacting with one another. Sometimes, these sounds coincide with glimpses of shadowy forms, enhancing the feeling that the cafe is alive with unseen activity. Other times, the noises occur without any visual phenomenon, creating a subtle, pervasive tension that unsettles anyone present. The layout of the cafe seems to encourage these spectral manifestations. The counter, with its old display shelves and tarnished cash register, becomes the focal point for many reported encounters. Visitors approaching the counter often feel a sudden chill, a draft that seems to move against the natural airflow, brushing their skin like the fleeting touch of a ghostly hand. It is in these areas that observers most frequently see figures appear, perform brief tasks, and then vanish, leaving the air heavy with the sense of something just beyond reach. Light and shadow enhance the haunting at Pine Grove Cafe. Moonlight filters through the grimy windows, casting long, distorted shapes across the floor. Shadows sometimes move independently of the figures themselves, stretching across the walls or flickering as if reacting to invisible presences. Mirrors and glass panels reflect the silhouettes of figures that vanish when glanced at directly, giving the impression that the cafe exists in two planes simultaneously, one of reality and one of residual memory. The interplay between light, darkness, and spectral activity creates an atmosphere where time seems suspended, and the ordinary space of the cafe feels imbued with echoes of its past. Visitors often report a sense of being watched, an intangible awareness that unseen eyes follow their movements. This feeling intensifies when figures are glimpsed near the counter or in the booths. And some guests describe the sensation of subtle pressure, like a presence brushing past their shoulders. The cafe seems to respond to human activity in a curious way. Footsteps echo more loudly in empty areas. Whispers of movement accompany the presence of shadowy figures, and the sounds of clattering dishes become more pronounced when someone lingers. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile phenomena creates a fully immersive haunting that engages all the senses, leaving an indelible impression on those who enter. Paranormal investigators who have studied Pine Grove Cafe frequently document multiple forms of activity. Cameras capture fleeting images of shadowy figures near the counter or in the booths. Audio devices pick up indistinct voices, whispers, and the sound of dishes clattering, even when the building is empty. EMF detectors often register unexplained spikes, and temperature readings fluctuate unexpectedly, especially near areas where visitors report the most intense experiences. These investigations reinforce the impression that the cafe is more than abandoned. It is a space where past life persists, replaying moments of service, conversation, and dining in ghostly detail. For those who linger after dark, Pine Grove Cafe offers a haunting, immersive encounter. Ghostly figures appear near the counter, moving with intent, yet disappearing before acknowledgement. The faint clatter of dishes echoes across the dining room, chairs scrape across the floor, and whispers drift through the air as if conversations are continuing invisibly. Cold drafts and a sense of being watched add to the tension, creating an environment where the boundaries between the living and the spectral blur. Pine Grove Cafe in Princeton stands as a haunting reminder that some places are never truly empty. Phantom figures, clattering dishes, moving chairs, and whispers combine to create a lingering presence that is both mysterious and evocative. Visitors leave with the sense that they have glimpsed echoes of past life, preserved within the walls of the abandoned cafe, where the routines of service and dining continue, unseen yet undeniably felt. Atlantic Diner in Atlantic City sits at the corner of a quiet street, its neon sign flickering intermittently even when the building is empty. By day, it appears as a shuttered, forgotten eatery, windows clouded with years of dust and neglect. Yet, as night falls, the diner takes on a different life. Visitors report experiences that cannot be explained, phenomena that suggest the presence of those long gone, yet unwilling to leave the familiar routines of their past. Phantom waiters glide silently across the worn wooden floors, moving with precise, deliberate steps. They carry invisible trays, tending to tables where no customers sit. Their movements are fluid, almost imperceptible at first, until one notices a shadow dart behind a booth or a figure pause mid-step near the counter, only to vanish when approached. The most common reports revolve around these spectral waiters. Witnesses describe tall, indistinct figures dressed in classic diner attire, their forms semi-transparent, as if composed of smoke or mist. Some appear to set plates, wipe counters, or pour non-existent drinks, performing ordinary tasks with uncanny realism. Those who linger too long claim to feel a subtle presence beside them, as if invisible hands are adjusting their place settings or brushing their shoulders. No one has ever caught these figures on conventional cameras clearly. They exist fleetingly, often disappearing the moment attention focuses on them. This fleeting visibility adds to the eerie sense that the diner is alive, yet exists partly out of phase with the present. Sounds play a significant role in the haunting of Atlantic Diner. Visitors frequently hear soft footsteps gliding across the floor, accompanied by the clatter of dishes and the hum of conversation. The voices are indistinct, overlapping, as if a chorus of past patrons murmurs to one another, sharing stories that can no longer be understood. Occasionally, the sound of laughter punctuates the quiet, ringing through the empty space. It is not loud or menacing, but has a hollow quality that evokes both nostalgia and unease. Chairs scrape lightly against the floor. The faint sound of cutlery clinking on plates can be heard, and sometimes the gentle murmur of a coffee machine turning over seems to fill the otherwise empty diner. The layout of the diner contributes to the sense of supernatural activity. Rows of vinyl booths line the walls, each with its polished table surface reflecting the dim, flickering neon light. The counter stretches along one side, complete with high stools, a tarnished cash register, and a faded menu board overhead. Visitors often report seeing phantom figures at the counter, moving in and out of view, performing tasks as though the diner were still bustling. Sometimes, shadows flit between booths, disappearing when approached, while the sound of footsteps behind them continues, unconnected to any visible presence. The physical space itself seems to act as a conduit, preserving the routines and echoes of the diner's active years. Light and shadow enhance the haunting in compelling ways, as if responding to invisible movements, creating a sense that the diner exists in two planes simultaneously, one tangible and one spectral. Neon signs pulse faintly, though no electricity is flowing, and these subtle illuminations seem to animate the shadows, giving them life and form where there should be none. Many visitors describe the sensation of being observed. A subtle weight seems to press from behind, a coldness brushing across the back of the neck. This sensation intensifies near the counter and booths, where shadowy figures are most frequently reported. Footsteps often echo unnaturally, accompanied by the soft murmur of conversation that seems directed at no one, yet somehow acknowledges the living presence. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile phenomena creates a deeply immersive haunting, leaving those who enter feeling both awed and unnerved. Paranormal investigators who have studied Atlantic Diner consistently document multiple forms of activity. Cameras capture fleeting images of figures moving behind the counter or across the booths. Audio recorders pick up the hum of conversation, footsteps, and laughter, even when the building is empty. Temperature fluctuations are commonly recorded, particularly in areas where visitors report the most intense activity. EMF detectors occasionally spike near booths and the counter, suggesting the presence of an unseen energy. Investigators often conclude that the diner is a site where the past persists, replaying its nightly routines for anyone willing to bear witness. For those who linger into the late hours, Atlantic Diner offers a haunting, immersive experience. Phantom waiters glide silently across the floors, invisible trays in hand. Ghostly laughter and the hum of conversation fill the air. Chairs move, dishes clatter, and footsteps echo, creating the impression of a diner still in operation, yet wholly beyond the reach of the living. Cold drafts and a subtle sense of being watched add to the tension, reinforcing the feeling that the diner is alive with memories, both tender and eerie. Atlantic Diner in Atlantic City stands as a reminder that some spaces never truly grow quiet. Phantom waiters, ghostly laughter, moving chairs, and whispered conversations combine to create a persistent presence that bridges the living and the spectral. Visitors leave with the sense that they have glimpsed a world preserved in memory, where the nightly routine continues endlessly, unnoticed by all but the most perceptive observers. Riverside Tavern in Hackensack has long been a quiet corner of the city by day, its brick exterior and large windows giving the appearance of a welcoming neighborhood pub. By night, however, it transforms into a space of eerie activity, a place where the past lingers and the line between the living and the spectral fades. Those who have ventured inside after dark speak of experiences that defy explanation. Shadowy figures that move with purpose near the bar. Footsteps echoing across empty floors. And cold drafts that sweep suddenly through the dining area, as though the building itself exhales a chill from memories long past. The bar area is the heart of the haunting. Visitors often describe figures standing silently behind the counter, moving as if attending to invisible patrons. These shadowy forms are semi-transparent, appearing like dark smudges in the dim light, yet their movements are deliberate. Some approach the bar, only to vanish when looked at directly, leaving no trace of their presence. Occasionally, witnesses report the faint clatter of bottles or glasses being handled, though the shelves remain undisturbed and the glasses untouched. The sense of a life ongoing in a space that has long been abandoned creates a strange tension, as if the tavern is stuck in a perpetual twilight, replaying routines that no one living can see. Footsteps are another common feature of the Riverside Tavern haunting. Visitors often find themselves turning corners or looking down hallways, only to see no one. The sound of these phantom footsteps can appear to follow people, lingering behind them as they move through the empty dining area, only to fade abruptly when they stop or glance back. This auditory presence is unnerving, a reminder that the tavern's past inhabitants may still linger, replaying familiar routines in silence. Cold drafts frequently accompany the appearance of shadowy figures. Visitors report sudden drops in temperature near the bar or in the corners of the dining room, even when doors and windows remain closed. These gusts often seem to move with a purpose, brushing across diners' shoulders or trailing along the backs of their necks. Some describe a sensation of being watched as the cold wind passes, as if unseen eyes track their every movement. The combination of these drafts, echoing footsteps, and spectral forms creates a deeply immersive experience, one that suggests the tavern itself has absorbed the presence of those who once spent their nights within its walls. The layout of Riverside Tavern adds to the unnerving atmosphere. Rows of tables and chairs line the space, reflecting dim overhead lights. Booths along the windows appear empty, yet shadowy forms are often reported pacing between them. The bar stretches along one wall, a polished wooden surface worn with age, behind which phantom bartenders are seen moving in and out of view. Mirrors behind the bar sometimes capture fleeting images of figures who vanish the moment they are seen clearly. Even the smallest details of the scratch of a chair leg, the tap of an invisible glassa reinforce the sense that this tavern has never truly been empty. Sounds of conversation and laughter add another layer to the haunting. Visitors often hear indistinct murmurs rising from the dining area. Soft voices that cannot be traced to any visible presence. Occasionally, the hum of laughter punctuates the air. Light and distant, carrying the feel of camaraderie from another era. Some claim to hear the clinking of silverware on unseen plates, the shuffle of invisible feet, or the low, rhythmic patter of someone moving behind a bar stool. These auditory experiences create the illusion of a tavern still in operation. Those who explore Riverside Tavern late into the evening frequently describe an unsettling sensation of being observed. There is a subtle pressure in the air, a feeling that the shadows themselves are aware of each movement, that the past is watching. Figures sometimes appear briefly at the edge of vision, then vanish when acknowledged. Some witnesses describe feeling a sudden chill along their backs as they approach the bar, as if a handa or perhaps the weight of a memoria passes lightly over them. These sensations reinforce the idea that the tavern is not merely haunted by echoes, but by the lingering presence of spirits who continue. The combination of visual, auditory, and physical phenomena has drawn both curiosity seekers and paranormal investigators to Riverside Tavern. Cameras occasionally capture fleeting shadows in the corners of the dining room or behind the bar. Audio recorders pick up footsteps, soft murmurs, and the faintest echoes of laughter, even when the building is devoid of life. Temperature readings often fluctuate in localized areas, particularly near the bar or along the booths, suggesting that some form of energy or presence is concentrated in specific spots. These investigations consistently reinforce the reports of visitors. The tavern is a site where the past persists, replaying its nightly routines for those willing to bear witness. Visitors leave Riverside Tavern with a sense of having glimpsed another world, a space where phantom patrons, shadowy figures, and unexplained sounds create a living memory of a bygone era. The bar seems forever occupied, footsteps continue to echo across the floor, and cold drafts remind the living that the tavern is not empty. Riverside Tavern stands as a testament to the idea that some places never truly let go of their past, and for those who enter after dark, the shadows and whispers offer a haunting, unforgettable experience. Meadowbrook Grill in Edison has earned a reputation among locals not just as a closed eatery, but as a place where the veil between the living and the spectral seems to thin. By day, it is simply an empty building, its large windows reflecting the sunlight and revealing an interior long abandoned. By night, however, the restaurant becomes a scene of eerie activity, where phantom patrons are said to appear near the windows. Lights flicker inexplicably, and the lingering aroma of burnt coffee drifts from machines that have not been powered in years. Visitors who step inside often describe experiences that are both unsettling and strangely immersive, as if the past is being replayed for anyone willing to observe. The windows of Meadowbrook Grill are often the first point of spectral sightings. People walking past the building at night report seeing shadowy figures. Their forms semi-transparent and indistinct, yet undeniably human in shape. Some appear to be engaged in conversation, gesturing subtly as though interacting with unseen companions. Others are seen sitting alone, staring outward, their presence giving the impression of waiting for someone who never arrives. These phantom patrons are said to vanish instantly, when approached, leaving only the empty tables behind. Yet the memory of their presence lingers, heavy in the air, like a whispered warning. Flickering lights add another layer of the haunting. Several visitors report that overhead fixtures and old wall sconces burst into brief, unexplainable flickers, illuminating the restaurant in short bursts before fading again. Occasionally, the lights reveal the phantom patrons in mid-motion, raising a cup, gesturing, or glancing around the room, only for the forms to dissolve into shadow when fully illuminated. The sporadic flickering often coincides with other phenomena. A sudden drop in temperature, the sensation of being watched, or the faint murmur of voices that cannot be traced to any living source. This combination of visual and sensory experiences makes the past feels present, and the living feel acutely aware of the unseen. One of the most peculiar aspects of the Meadowbrook Grill haunting is the smell of burnt coffee. Visitors have consistently reported a strong aroma coming from the coffee machines, despite the fact that no power has flowed to them for decades. Some describe it as the rich, bitter scent of coffee left on a heating element for too long, while others note the sharp tang of over-roasted beans. The smell often appears suddenly, filling the space around the counter and the seating area, then vanishing as quickly as it arrived. In combination with the flickering lights and shadowy figures, the aroma creates a sensory overlay that convinces visitors they have stepped into a moment-long past, where diners and baristas are still performing their nightly routines. Sounds accompany the visual and olfactory phenomena, heightening the sense of an active, albeit spectral, restaurant. Footsteps echo across the floor, often along paths where no living person is present. Chairs scrape gently against the floor as though someone has just moved them, and the faint clatter of dishes can occasionally be heard from the back of the grill. Chairs scrape gently against the floor as though someone has just moved them, and the faint clatter of dishes can occasionally be heard from the back of the grill. Some visitors even report hearing the low murmur of conversation or the quiet laughter of patrons, faint and indistinct, seeming to rise from empty tables. These auditory experiences often overlap with the flickering lights, or the appearance of shadowy figures, creating a cohesive illusion that the restaurant is occupied by beings from another time. The layout of Meadowbrook Grill appears to accentuate the haunting. The counter and coffee station dominate the far wall, their surfaces still polished despite years of neglect. Phantom activity tends to cluster around these areas, with figures seated at windowside tables, lights flickering above the counter, and the aroma of burnt coffee lingering near the machines. Corners and alcoves of the grill often harbor shadows that vanish when examined too closely, reinforcing the impression that the space is alive with presences that cannot be captured fully by the human eye. Visitors often report a sensation of being observed when wandering through the restaurant. The shadowy figures near the windows sometimes appear to follow a persona-esque movements with their gaze, only to vanish the moment the visitor attempts to meet their eyes. Cold drafts often accompany these moments, brushing along the back of the neck or across the shoulders, further amplifying the feeling of unseen attention. Some claim that the combination of visual, auditory, and olfactory experiences is so convincing that the line between the living and the spectral blurs, leaving an indelible impression of the Meadowbrook Grill as a place where the past is not only remembered but actively replayed. Even seasoned paranormal enthusiasts find Meadowbrook Grill compelling. Cameras occasionally capture fleeting shadows at the window edges. Audio recorders pick up faint murmurs or footsteps, and temperature sensors note sudden drops near the tables or counter. And burnt coffee aroma cannot be controlled or fully explained, suggesting that the haunting is less about physical evidence and more about the lingering essence of the people who once animated the space. The phantom patrons' flickering lights and burnt coffee aroma cannot be controlled or fully explained, suggesting that the haunting is less about physical evidence and more about the lingering essence of the people who once animated the space. For those who enter Meadowbrook Grill after dark, the experience is unforgettable. Phantom patrons hover near the windows. Flickering lights illuminate moments from decades past. The scent of burnt coffee fills the air. The footsteps, clattering dishes, and murmured voices amplify the sense that the restaurant is still operating. Meadowbrook Grill stands as a reminder that some places retain the imprint of those who once inhabited them. For those willing to witness, the shadows and whispers offer a haunting, immersive glimpse into a time that refuses to be forgotten. Pine Street Eatery in Morristown has long been a local favorite, known for its hearty meals, rustic copyright COR, and the cozy charm of its century-old building. What many diners don't realize, however, is that the eatery carries with it a reputation far beyond its culinary delights, a reputation that involves the unexplained, the eerie, and the supernatural. Over the years, stories have circulated about ghostly presences, mysterious noises, and shadowy figures that seem to defy explanation. Those who have spent any length of time in the dining hall often speak of footsteps echoing through the space when no one else is present. Chairs occasionally scrape across the wooden floors, as though an invisible diner has arrived for a meal. Patrons have reported the sensation of being watched, turning to find only empty tables and an undisturbed room. Some claim to have heard faint whispers, conversations that vanish the moment they strain to listen. These are not isolated incidents. Over decades, staff and guests alike have shared similar encounters, contributing to a pervasive sense of unease that lingers even in broad daylight. The kitchen, in particular, seems to be a focal point of activity. Staff members recount seeing shadowy figures moving just beyond the line of sight, shapes that melt into the corners the instant they are noticed. Cutlery might rattle without cause, and the occasional clatter of pots and pans occurs when the area is empty. Some chefs insist they felt a sudden chill, as though a presence brushed past them. Others speak of fleeting glimpses of figures hovering near the stove, disappearing before anyone can call out. The stories vary, as some describe malevolent intentions. Others hint at lingering memories of past occupanza. But the consistent theme is the kitchen as a place of restless energy. Regular patrons have their own anecdotes. One couple recalls sitting in the corner booth when they heard the unmistakable sound of chairs dragging behind them. Turning, they expected to see another diner, only to find the floor empty. On another occasion, a group of friends reported their glasses tipping over in unison, yet no one had touched them. Even more unnerving, some have noted a sudden, unexplained chill in the air, despite the eateria's normally warm, inviting atmosphere. Lights flicker intermittently, as if signaling an unseen presence, and the humming of appliances sometimes seems to synchronize with whispered words. Locals who have lived near Pine Street Eatery for decades have their own theories. Some believe the building is haunted by former owners or workers who spent countless hours tending to the eatery and never truly left. Others speculate that the site may have a more complex history, perhaps connected to the town itself, a layering of energy accumulated over generations. Oral histories and faded newspaper clippings occasionally reveal past events. A chef who passed away in the kitchen, a long-forgotten diner who frequented the place, or a late-night brawl that ended tragically. Locals who have lived near Pine Street Eatery for decades have their own theories. Whether these events directly contribute to the reported phenomena is, but they add weight to the idea that the eatery carries a lingering imprint of the past. Despite these experiences, the Pine Street Eatery remains a popular destination. Its reputation for paranormal activity seems to have only heightened its appeal for those seeking something beyond a meal. Patrons curious about the supernatural often choose late-night visits, hoping to catch a glimpse of what others have described. Paranormal investigators occasionally arrive with equipment, documenting unusual readings of temperature drops, unexplained sounds, and electromagnetic fluctuations, though concrete evidence remains elusive. Yet, even without definitive proof, the stories endure, passed down from one visitor to another, growing in richness and detail over time. Interestingly, not all encounters are frightening. Some visitors describe a sense of melancholy, a quiet presence that seems more reflective than threatening. Others speak of fleeting shadows that move with purpose, almost as if they are observing, protecting, or perhaps attempting to communicate. Staff members have occasionally left notes about objects that seem to have been moved intentionally, as if something or something is trying to interact without words. Cups are shifted slightly on counters, napkins rearranged, or menus left open to particular pages. These subtle gestures suggest an awareness, a consciousness that does not conform to the physical reality of the eatery. The combination of tangible history and intangible experiences has created an atmosphere at Pine Street Eatery that is both charming and unsettling. Visitors can enjoy their meals in the warm glow of the dining hall. Yet there is always an undercurrent of mysteria, a sense that the building itself holds stories beyond those of its patrons and staff. The lingering whispers, the footsteps that echo without explanation, and the shadowy figures near the kitchen all serve as reminders that some presences may never truly leave, no matter how much time passes. For many, the allure lies in the unknown. People continue to visit, drawn not just by the promise of good food, but by the chance to witness the inexplicable. Whether these experiences are the remnants of past lives, manifestations of lingering energy, or simply the imagination reacting to an old, storied building, they have become an integral part of Pine Street Eatery's identity. Over the years, the eatery has evolved into more than a place to eat. It has become a space where the living and the unseen intersect, creating moments that are at once ordinary and extraordinary, familiar and unsettling. Pine Street Eatery stands as a testament to Moorestone's history, both human and spectral. Its wooden floors, warm lighting, and inviting copyright COR conceal a depth of experience that only the keenest observers might sense. For anyone willing to step inside and pay attention, there is a story in every corner, a whisper in every room, and a shadow that may not belong entirely to this world. Visitors continue to share their encounters, ensuring that the eatery's reputation as a haunted yet beloved institution endures, a place where meals are accompanied not just by conversation and laughter, but by the subtle, persistent presence of those who never truly left. Coastal Cafe in Wildwood is known for its ocean view windows, warm wooden floors, and the salty tang of sea air that drifts in with every tide. By day, it is a cheerful spot for breakfast or a casual lunch, filled with the chatter of locals and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Yet after sunset, the cafe takes on an entirely different character, one that has left both staff and visitors with accounts that are difficult to explain. Over the years, Coastal Cafe has earned a reputation for unusual and often eerie activity, drawing in those intrigued by the paranormal as well as unsuspecting diners who stumble upon the unexplained. The most frequently reported phenomenon involves phantom figures gliding across the floorboards. Patrons sometimes glance up from their meals to see what appears to be someone walkinga or floatinga through the dining area. Yet when they try to follow, the figures vanish, leaving only the subtle imprint of footsteps or the faint ripple of air. Some describe shadowy outlines, humanoid but indistinct, moving with a fluidity that seems impossible for the living. The shapes rarely appear threatening. Instead, they drift through the rooms with an almost casual familiarity, as if they belong to the space in ways the living never fully will. Visitors also recount hearing sounds that should not exist. Laughter echoes from empty corners, soft and melodic, but not tied to any actual person. Glasses clink together, as if a toast were being made in a room without diners. Occasionally, silverware rattles against plates with no hand to move it, and chairs scrape across the floor, as though someone has just risen. The effect is subtle but persistent, creating an atmosphere that can be both charming and unsettling. Those who are sensitive to the supernatural often describe a heightened awareness in the cafe after dark, a feeling of being observed without a visible observer, as if the past and present occupy the same space simultaneously. Staff members have their own tales, many of which involve the cafe's back rooms and kitchen area. Appliances turn on and off without cause, and the occasional shadow crosses walls where no one is standing. One server recalls setting down a tray of drinks only to hear footsteps following her as she moved toward the dining area. Yet turning revealed an empty path. Others have described the sensation of someone brushing past them in tight spaces, only to find no one there. Even regular cleaning routines can feel strange, with mops and brooms occasionally shifted or left in places they were not originally stored, as if guided by an invisible hand. The cafe's history offers hints at why it may be haunted. Coastal Cafe occupies a building that has stood for nearly a century, a time when the waterfront was busier with trade and small businesses. The space has seen countless owners, families, and patrons over the decades. Some locals speak of a previous proprietor, a cheerful woman who ran the cafe in the 1940s and was said to be beloved by the community. She is rumored to linger, still welcoming guests, ensuring they are comfortable and well-fed. Others suggest that long-ago celebrations left a lasting imprint on the building, a resonance of joy that manifests as laughter and the sound of glasses toasting. While the origins of the activity are uncertain, it is clear that the building carries the weight of its history in ways that cannot be measured or explained by the living. Patrons who have experienced these phenomena often describe a mixture of awe and unease. One regular recounts dining alone when he heard faint laughter behind him, turning to see a shadowy figure pass by a window. The figure was humanoid, yet blurred at the edges, slipping effortlessly across the floor before disappearing. Another visitor reported sitting near the bar when the sound of clinking glasses rose around her, though the room was empty and the bartender was nowhere in sight. The effect is not always frightening. Some diners find it oddly comforting, as though they are witnessing echoes of happier times, preserved and replayed within the walls. Photographs and recordings taken by those who hope to document the activity rarely capture anything definitive, though occasional anomalies appear, a blurred shape, a fleeting shadow, or an unexplained light flare. Paranormal investigators have noted temperature drops, changes in electromagnetic fields, and faint, indiscernible voices on audio recordings. While scientific proof remains elusive, the consistency of experiences among different visitors and staff suggests something unusual is occurring. Interestingly, the cafe's spectral residents seem to be drawn to moments of human connection. Many encounters happen when laughter is shared, glasses are raised, or conversations fill the air. It is as if the spirits are participating in the rhythms of life, joining celebrations long after their own presence has ceased. Some servers have even left notes in the back room describing objects subtly rearranged. These small gestures hint at an awareness and engagement, a playful or attentive energy that coexists with the living in a way that is neither aggressive nor malevolent. Coastal Cafe remains a beloved fixture of Wildwood, its reputation for the supernatural enhancing rather than deterring its appeal. Visitors are drawn not just by the food or the view, but by the possibility of witnessing something inexplicable. The cafe offers a space where history, memory, and the unexplained converge, creating an experience that is as much about presence as it is about taste. For those willing to pay attention, there is always the chance of noticing a flicker in the corner of the eye, hearing laughter from nowhere, or seeing a glass lift and tilt as if raised in a silent toast. In the end, Coastal Cafe is a place where the ordinary and the extraordinary coexist. Its warm, inviting atmosphere contrasts with the lingering mysteries that ripple through the floorboards and walls. Whether the phantom figures are remnants of past patrons, echoes of joyful celebrations, or something else entirely, they have become part of the Cafe's identity. Diners continue to come, drawn by the charm of the setting and the whispers of the unseen, leaving with stories that will join the growing chorus of accounts that define this enigmatic, oceanside establishment. Liberty Road Diner in Jersey City has long been a neighborhood staple, offering classic comfort food and the warmth of a familiar gathering place. By day, the diner is alive with the chatter of regulars, the clatter of dishes, and the hiss of coffee machines. Its retro.copyright COR, complete with vinyl booths and checkered floors, evokes a sense of nostalgia, drawing in patrons who appreciate both the food and the atmosphere. Yet behind the cheerful FAA sectionade, the diner harbors a reputation for the uncanny. A series of experiences that have left staff and visitors questioning what is real and what lingers from the past. Many visitors report seeing shadowy figures seated at tables, figures that appear solid at first but vanish when approached. These apparitions are often described as indistinct, as if the edges of their forms blur into the air. Some seem to be in mid-conversation, gesturing or nodding silently, while others simply sit, staring forward with an eerie stillness. Patrons often notice these shadows in peripheral vision, turning quickly to find empty booths and a diner filled only with the present. The frequency of these sightings has made the Liberty Road Diner a quiet hub for those intrigued by the paranormal, drawing curious locals and occasional investigators hoping to catch a glimpse of the unexplained. The phenomenon is not limited to visual encounters. Many guests have reported the faint aroma of cooking that seems to come from ovens and stoves long since abandoned. The smell of sizzling bacon, freshly baked bread, or simmering sauces appears without any source, wafting through the diner and creating a sense of presence without substance. Staff members describe times when they have entered the kitchen alone, to find no one there, yet the scent of food lingers as if a meal is being prepared just out of reach. It is an experience, both comforting and unsettling, a sensory echo that evokes the life of the diner, while simultaneously defying explanation. Shadowy patrons are not always confined to quiet corners. Some have been seen moving between tables, gliding along the floor in a manner that seems impossibly smooth. Witnesses often feel a chill or a sudden drop in temperature when these figures appear, accompanied by a subtle awareness of being observed. One longtime server recalls setting down a tray of coffee only to see a shape rising from a booth at the far end of the diner. She froze, expecting to hear a greeting or a movement. But the figure dissipated before she could react, leaving only the lingering aroma of freshly cooked eggs. Others have reported seeing groups of these shadows clustered together, as though engaging in social interactions that mirror the activities of the living, yet remain just out of reach. Some encounters involve the sounds of a diner that isn't truly present. Faint laughter, murmured conversations, and the soft clinking of utensils can be heard when the diner is otherwise empty. These sounds are subtle, almost imperceptible at first, but attentive listeners report them with startling clarity. It is as if the Liberty Road Diner continues to function in parallel with the present, a shadow life replaying moments from decades past. Patrons have occasionally looked toward the source of the sounds, expecting to see other customers or staff, only to find empty tables and silent booths. The dinner's long history may hold clues to the origin of these phenomena. The building has stood for over a century, witnessing the ebb and flow of Jersey City's neighborhoods, families, and local culture. Former employees speak of a legacy of devotion, with cooks and servers spending decades in service to the diner, forming a connection to the space that seems to endure beyond death. Local historians suggest that some of the shadows could be echoes of past patrons, people who once frequented the diner, so often that their presence left an imprint on the building itself. Others believe that the kitchen scents are tied to memories, residual energy left behind by generations who worked, laughed, and lived within its walls. Staff members have adapted to the presence of these unexplained phenomena, often regarding them with a mix of amusement and respect. Trays are sometimes placed down with a soft warning to mind the shadows, and occasional whispers of acknowledgement circulate among employees. Patrons who notice these occurrences frequently share stories, creating a communal awareness that the diner is more than a place for food, it is a space where the living and the unseen coexist. Some diners have even reported that the shadows seem curious, occasionally glancing toward observers or following them with subtle movements, as if aware of being watched. Despidia, or perhaps because of its haunted reputation, Liberty Road Diner remains popular. Locals continue to return for the food, the nostalgia, and the chance to experience something that defies ordinary understanding. Paranormal enthusiasts have visited with cameras and recording equipment, capturing occasional glimpses of fleeting shadows or faint anomalies, though proof remains elusive. Still, the shared experiences of staff and patrons lend credibility to the stories, reinforcing the idea that the diner is a living repository of memory and presence. The atmosphere at Liberty Road Diner is one of coexistence. The aromas, the shadows, and the occasional sounds create an environment where past and present intertwine. Patrons can enjoy their meals while sensing the invisible lives that continue alongside them, a quiet reminder that the diner holds more than the simple pleasures of food and conversation. Whether these experiences are residual energy, spirits lingering in comfort, or echoes of memory, they have become part of the identity of the Liberty Road Diner, drawing visitors who seek both sustenance and a brush with the inexplicable. In the end, Liberty Road Diner stands as a testament to the layering of time and memory. Its tables, booths, and kitchen carry the weight of decades, filled not only with meals and laughter, but with impressions that remain beyond the tangible. The shadowy patrons and the aromas from abandoned ovens are subtle reminders that some presences never truly leave, and that even in the midst of the familiar, the extraordinary can still make itself known. Visitors continue to share their stories, ensuring that the dinner's haunted reputation remains as alive as the aromas that drift through its rooms, a place where the unseen is always just a heartbeat away. Maple Avenue Grill in Hackensack has long been a neighborhood favorite, offering classic American fare in a cozy, retro setting. Its polished wooden booths, checkered flooring, and soft ambient lighting create an inviting atmosphere for families, friends, and regular patrons. Yet behind the warm, welcoming environment lies a reputation that many describe as chilling. Over the years, Maple Avenue Grill has earned a reputation for unexplained activity that has both fascinated and unsettled visitors. From phantom figures gliding through the booths to the mysterious sounds of a kitchen that seems alive even when no one is present. The most frequently reported phenomenon involves shadowy figures appearing in the booths. Diners have often glanced up to see the outline of a person seated across from them, only for the figure to vanish when they attempt to get a closer look. These apparitions are not always stationary. Some glide silently along the aisle, moving as though they are engaged in the routines of daily life. Staff have described moments when they feel the presence of a diner watching them, a shadow lingering in the corner of their vision, only to disappear when acknowledged. The figures vary in size and shape, sometimes resembling former patrons or staff members, but always carrying an aura of mystery and otherworldliness. Alongside these visual sightings, the grill is often alive with sounds that have no discernible source. Chairs scrape against the floor, as if someone has just stood up, and footsteps echo across the wooden planks when the dining room is empty. Occasionally, the clatter of utensils and the low hum of kitchen activity can be heard coming from the back. Even during hours when no staff are present, some patrons report feeling sudden chills or the sensation of being watched as these sounds occur, giving the sense that something or something is moving through the restaurant preparing meals that no one will ever taste. Staff members have long grown accustomed to these strange occurrences, often regarding them with a mix of amusement and cautious respect. Servers recount placing trays down, only to hear the unmistakable sound of someone moving behind them, though no one is visible. Kitchen staff have described the smell of food cooking, pots simmering, or the hiss of a skillet on the stove when the kitchen is empty. Sometimes, objects appear to shift on their own, menus left slightly askew, salt and pepper shakers nudged closer together, or a coffee pot moved to the edge of the counter. These subtle signs suggest an intelligence at work, a presence that interacts with the physical world in quiet, deliberate ways. The history of the building offers clues as to why Maple Avenue Grill might be haunted. The property has stood for several decades, hosting generations of diners and employees. Many locals recall stories of a longtime cook who devoted his life to the grill, tending to customers and preparing meals for decades. Some believe his dedication has left a lingering imprint on the restaurant, a residual energy that continues to move through the space. Others suggest that the booths themselves retain memories of past patrons, replaying echoes of conversations, laughter, and meals shared in the warmth of the dining room. For visitors, these experiences often leave a lasting impression. One diner recounted finishing her lunch when she heard the unmistakable sound of chairs scraping behind her. Turning, she expected to see someone entering the room, only to find the booths empty and the room still. On another occasion, a young man sitting at a corner booth noticed a shadowy figure across from him, sitting upright as though waiting for an order. When he blinked, the figure had vanished, leaving only a faint chill in the air and the lingering sense of presence. These moments, though brief, are often enough to leave diners questioning the ordinary boundaries of the space around them. Paranormal investigators have occasionally visited Maple Avenue Grill to document these occurrences, noting fluctuations in temperature, strange readings on electromagnetic devices, and faint whispers captured on audio recordings. Though no conclusive proof has emerged, the consistency of reports from different visitors and employees lends weight to the stories. Many who experience the phenomena describe them as neither overtly threatening nor malicious. Instead, the apparitions seem intent on replaying fragments of life from days gone by, moving through the grill in patterns that suggest routine, familiarity, and an enduring connection to the space. Interestingly, the grilla's spectral residents seem to favor times of high activity. The footsteps, scraping chairs, and faint cooking smells often occur during busy lunch hours or evening dinners, almost as if the unseen presence participates alongside the living. Staff have occasionally commented that these manifestations mirror the rhythm of the restaurant, reinforcing the feeling that the history and energy of Maple Avenue Grill continue to pulse within its walls. The shadows appear, vanish, and reappear, creating a layered experience, where past and present intertwine in subtle, often inexplicable ways. Despite or perhaps because of its haunted reputation, Maple Avenue Grill remains popular. Regulars continue to return for the food, the nostalgic atmosphere, and the whispered promise of encountering something beyond the ordinary. Patrons often leave sharing their own stories of strange sounds, fleeting shadows, or mysterious aromas, contributing to a growing collection of shared experiences. In this way, the grill has become more than a place to eat at. It is a location where memory, energy, and the unexplained converge, offering visitors a taste not only of classic meals, but of lingering echoes from the past. Maple Avenue Grill stands as a unique testament to the intertwining of history and the supernatural. Its booths, tables, and kitchen carry more than the weight of daily lithia. They hold the traces of lives long past, visible in shadows and heard in echoes. Diners leave with meals enjoyed and stories to tell, aware that in this Hackensack eatery, the ordinary coexists with the extraordinary, and that some presences never truly leave, continuing to glide, watch, and whisper amid the scent of food and the warmth of a familiar space. Garden Deli in Elizabeth has long been a focal point of both local lore and curiosity. From the outside, it is a modest, brick-faced building, weathered by decades of wind and sun, its windows clouded with age and dust. Passers-by often glance at it and sense something almost alive within its walls, though it has been officially abandoned for decades. Despite the emptiness, the deli has earned a reputation for experiences that defy explanation, drawing the attention of paranormal enthusiasts, historians, and casual wanderers alike. Stories of ghostly laughter, whispers, and lingering aromas persist, creating an atmosphere both unsettling and strangely inviting. Visitors often report hearing faint laughter drifting through the deli, soft and melodic, as though a group of friends or family were enjoying a meal together. The sound is subtle at first, blending with the natural hum of the street, but it grows clearer the longer one lingers. Whispers accompany the laughter, fragmented phrases that are impossible to fully discern but carry a weight of familiarity and intimacy. Patrons and explorers alike describe a sense of being observed, as if unseen figures are moving about the space, talking amongst themselves and carrying on the routines of a lifelong past. Those who experience these sounds rarely feel threatened. Instead, there is a sense of participating in a memory that refuses to fade, a snapshot of ordinary life preserved in an extraordinary way. Even more unsettling is the lingering aroma that seems to persist despite the building's decades of abandonment. The faint smell of bread baking, rich and warm, drifts through the air, along with the robust scent of coffee brewing. These fragrances are so vivid that visitors sometimes find themselves glancing around for ovens, coffee pots, or staff, only to be reminded that the building is empty. Staff members who previously worked at the deli or locals who remember its heyday often describe a powerful sense of nostalgia when entering. The smells carry with them the weight of decades. Sightings of ghostly figures, though less common than auditory or olfactory phenomena, have been reported by those daring enough to spend extended periods inside. Shadowy shapes are sometimes seen moving behind dusty counters, gliding past shelves, or lingering near the entrance. They rarely take on distinct human features, more often appearing as vague silhouettes, but their presence is unmistakable. Some observers claim to have caught glimpses of figures bending over to arrange items on counters, dusting invisible surfaces, or gesturing toward empty tables. Some observers claim to have caught glimpses of figures bending over to arrange items on counters, dusting invisible surfaces, or gesturing toward empty tables. The motions are deliberate, mirroring the activities of a functioning deli, yet they remain intangible, leaving only the sense that life continues here in parallel to the living world. Life continues here in parallel to the living world. Life continues here in parallel to the living world. Locals have long shared stories of the Delia's history, suggesting that these manifestations are tied to the people who once animated the space. Garden Deli was a gathering place for the community. Employees devoted years of their lives to the shop, rising early to bake bread, brew coffee, and prepare sandwiches for regulars who had become part of a daily ritual. Some believe that this devotion created a lingering energy, an echo of human activity, so strong that it continues to repeat itself, even in the absence of living participants. Visitors who have experienced these phenomena often speak of a surreal sense of intimacy. One frequent account describes a woman who entered the deli in the late afternoon, expecting only dust and silence. Instead, she heard the unmistakable sound of laughter coming from behind the counter, followed by whispers in a language she could not fully comprehend. The smells of fresh bread and coffee were so vivid that she found herself reaching for a cup that was not there. Shadows flitted across her peripheral vision, yet when she turned, the building was empty. Moments like these leave a lasting impression, blurring the line between memory and reality, past and present. Paranormal investigators have visited Garden Deli on numerous occasions, documenting temperature fluctuations, audio anomalies, and unusual electromagnetic readings. Some report capturing faint whispers or the soft hum of activity on recording devices, though nothing has definitively explained the source. Photographs occasionally reveal fleeting shapes or distortions, though these remain inconclusive. Despite the lack of hard evidence, the consistency of experiences among different visitors lends credibility to the stories, reinforcing the idea that the deli is more than a relic, it is a space where past energy persists. Interestingly, the phenomena seem most pronounced during times of reflection or solitude. Those who enter alone or during quieter parts of the day are more likely to notice the laughter, whispers, and scents, as though the deli responds to the attention of the living. Objects, though largely decayed or removed over the years, are sometimes reported to shift slightly, as if adjusted by unseen hands. Cups may be aligned perfectly on counters, napkins neatly folded, or shelves tidied in ways that mimic the care of previous occupants. These subtle interactions create a sense of continuity, as if the deli itself preserves a version of life long gone, allowing visitors to step into a living memory. Garden Deli stands as a testament to the enduring power of human presence and memory. Its empty floors and dusty counters are more than physical remnants. They are repositories of laughter, conversation, and care that refuse to fade entirely. Patrons and explorers leave with stories of shadowy figures, ghostly whispers, and the comforting yet eerie smells of bread and coffee, ensuring that the Delia's reputation as a haunted, living memory continues to grow. For those willing to step inside, Garden Deli offers a unique experientia, a chance to witness the convergence of the past and present, and to feel the echoes of life that never truly left. Final Abandoned Restaurant in Newark sits at the edge of an industrial block, its boarded-up windows and peeling paint giving it an air of desolation even in daylight. Once a bustling hub of conversation, laughter, and clinking glasses, it is now a hollow shell of its former self. Yet for those who dare to step inside, the building is far from empty. Shadowy figures, phantom waiters, and the faint echoes of long-forgotten patrons seem to linger in the air, replaying fragments of a life that ended abruptly, leaving its presence embedded in the walls. Visitors who enter after dark often report an overwhelming sense of being observed, as if unseen eyes are following their every movement. The dining room, with its rows of tables and empty chairs, appears to move with a life of its own. Shadows glide across the floorboards, some taking the form of former diners frozen in mid-conversation, others resembling waiters carrying trays of invisible meals. These figures vanish the moment they are noticed, leaving only a chill in the air and a lingering impression of movement that cannot be explained by wind or sound. Phantom waiters are perhaps the most unsettling manifestation. They appear at the tables, poised as if ready to serve, their forms translucent but clearly humanoid. Some are seen arranging plates, adjusting glasses, or brushing invisible crumbs from the tablecloth. Patrons attempting to interact with them are met with nothing. Words go unanswered, hands pass through empty air, and the figures dissolve into the shadows. The effect is both eerie and mesmerizing, as if the restaurant itself is frozen in a perpetual state of service, caught between the world of the living and the echoes of the departed. The voices of long-forgotten patrons are another common occurrence. Whispers rise from corners, conversations that begin clearly and then fade into unintelligible murmurs. Occasionally, laughter or murmured complaints can be heard, voices overlapping as if multiple groups occupy the same space across different eras. Some visitors have described hearing their own names called, only to find no one present. Others recount hearing fragments of dialogue that hint at personal stories, moments of joy or tension abruptly interrupted, now replaying endlessly for those who step inside. The history of the Final Abandoned Restaurant is murky but tragic. Locals speak of sudden closures due to unforeseen circumstances, fires, financial ruin, or sudden departures of key staff that left the building suspended in time. The restaurant was once a gathering place for families, lovers, and friends. Special occasions were celebrated there, anniversaries marked with champagne, birthdays with cake, and ordinary nights filled with conversation and warmth. That vibrancy, however, was cut short, leaving behind an imprint so strong that, according to those who have entered, it continues to resonate through the empty rooms. The atmosphere inside is thick with the weight of memory. Some visitors report a noticeable drop in temperature as they walk through the dining room, a coldness that seems localized around certain tables or corners. Chairs scrape across the floor unbidden, glasses tinkle as if lifted for a toast, and the soft hiss of kitchen appliances can occasionally be heard from areas that have long been abandoned. Even in the quietest moments, there is a sense of motion, of invisible life going on as it always did, replaying routines that the living can no longer participate in. Those who have dared to explore the restaurant alone often describe a sense of being part of something larger, a presence that is both inviting and forbidding. One visitor recounted walking past a shadow seated at a table, only to feel a cold hand brush their shoulder as the figure disappeared. Another described following the outline of a waiter carrying a tray, only to find that the tray was invisible and the figure dissolved into the darkness. These experiences leave an indelible impression, a mix of fascination and unease that lingers long after leaving the building. Paranormal investigators have occasionally ventured inside, documenting temperature fluctuations, electromagnetic anomalies, and faint audio patterns that hint at voices and movement. Documenting temperature fluctuations, electromagnetic anomalies, and faint audio patterns that hint at voices and movement. And electromagnetic anomalies and faint audio patterns that hint at voices and movement. And faint audio patterns that hint at voices and movement. Photographs sometimes reveal faint, blurred shapes, and video recordings occasionally show shadows moving against the grain of reality. Yet no concrete explanation has emerged. The consistency of eyewitness accounts, however, lends credibility to the stories. It seems that the final abandoned restaurant is a space where past and present coexist, a place where energy, memory, and presence have become inseparable. Locals warn that those who enter after dark may witness the final remnants of lives abruptly interrupted. It is as if the restaurant has absorbed the last echoes of its patrons, binding them to the walls and tables, eternally replaying scenes that never reach their natural conclusion. Visitors often leave with a sense of weight, a feeling that the building is more than an abandoned structure. It is a repository of human experience, grief, and memory. The interplay of shadow, sound, and scent creates a haunting yet strangely magnetic environment that continues to draw the curious and the brave. Despite its decay and desolation, the final abandoned restaurant remains a focal point of stories and experiences. Shadowy figures roam the dining room, phantom waiters serve invisible meals, and voices of long-gone patrons fill the air with echoes of lives left incomplete. To step inside is to step into a place where time is fractured, where the ordinary rhythms of life have been suspended, and where the past persists with an insistence that is impossible to ignore. Those who enter do so with trepidation, curiosity, or both, and almost without exception leave with a story to tell a story of a restaurant that is no longer of this world, yet refuses to be forgotten. These are the haunted abandoned restaurants of New Jersey, where shadowy patrons linger, phantom waiters glide across floors, and whispers of forgotten meals echo through the empty halls. Each building carries the energy of lives interrupted, of meals left unfinished, and of spirits who refuse to leave. If you ever find yourself exploring these restaurants, beware. The smell of cooking may not be ordinary,